everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Hey guys, sorry, I had to get Don out of here because he came in here to get the dog treats right as the music ended. So I had to get him out of here. Let's see. Who's in here? Happy Friday. Hey Lenore. Hey Dawn. Hey Wang. Is it Wang or Wong? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce a bunch of these names because I want to make sure that I don't get them wrong. Hey, Jen and James. The aftermath of this plea deal is turning out to be a bigger shit show than trial was setting up to be. This is wild AF. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Hey, Momo. How you doing? Have y'all have thoughts on Hunter J saying he locked the doors to his home the night of the event? Find that seriously sus because he said he has never done that before. Yeah, we're going to talk about the book because it says that in the book too. There's more of actually Josie also walked outside around like 3 o'clock in the morning because she left her phone in the car. And then it was apparently whenever she walked back into the house that Hunter then locked the door, which is extra in the book. So we're going to talk about that because we're going to get to where we're at with the book review too. Hey there, Lori. Hey, MV. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing too. I have a hard time believing he never locked it before that. I cannot stand, honestly, for real. We're in 2020-5. Okay. I know that there's probably parts in like real, like way country-ish areas, maybe, where people maybe still don't lock their doors as much. But there's no way that you live in a campus area where you know that there's a bunch of like drunk people constantly walking around, where there's already been like a guy dressed in all black with a knife, like threatening people on the bike path by there. Like there's already a lot of stuff. Like reading the book talking about like just Chief Fry's like history and like the other cases that like Barrett worked on, the other cases that Mabbitt worked on. They've had a lot of cray stuff go on in Moscow. Okay. So yeah, that whole like, oh, I've never locked the door before thing. Yeah, I always wonder about that. Hey, Dr. Mama, how you doing? Hey, Danny. Hey, Risa. Hey, Gracefully Salty. Hey, Sweetie Pie. Hey, Aunt Boo Boo. Hey, Danny. Hey, Sadie. Hey, Carly. Hey, Donna. Hey, Steph. Hey, Sam. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Queen. Hey, Carol. Hey, Rose. Hey, Mr. Kevin. I didn't put them up like I normally do. Hey, Carly. So I just want to say hi real quick. Sherry and Barney at home. You and your doggos. Hey, I've got something to say. How you doing? Miss Millie. Hi. Hey, Rose. Hey, Jean. Hey, Brian. Thank you for the 5, Sadie. Thank you for all that you do. Well, thank you for being here. Hey there, Rocket. Hey, Lenore. Oh, I think I told you hi already. I think you were the first one. Hey, Laura. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. Yeah, a bunch of case stuff. I've been seeing a lot of different cases pop up. Did y'all see that Steven Stearns requested a plea hearing in both of his Maddie Soto cases? Did you also hear that I know that people are going to be like, oh, it's his right. But did you know that he wanted to like make sure that he was able to see the evidence on his phone, meaning all those nasty photos and videos of Maddie? Like he wanted to make sure that whatever happened, he was going to be able to see the evidence against him, which I get is his right. But whenever it's involving a child and everything that we already know that is on there, you shouldn't have that right because you already know it's there. Like if they've already proven it to you and you already know that it exists, like at this point, you're just trying to like make sure your memories are fresh before you go somewhere. You know what I mean? Like you're nasty. You're just nasty. Hello, everybody who was here. We are going to watch some interviews today. Now, I did a review of the interview that Steve Goncalves did with Ashley Banfeld on her own channel. That one was posted this morning. It was pretty long because the interview was really long. And he said a lot of stuff. He said a lot of things. He said lots of things. So if you missed that one, head on over there. He says some similar things in the ones, because there's 3, okay? If you watch the one that he did with her, then you would know that at the end of it, you can hear Christy telling him something about we got to go. They were honestly catching a flight because they did a whole bunch of interviews, and I wanted to just watch them all together to see if there's anything different in them. I recorded them, flipped them around, and did what I had to do in order to be able to show them. He doesn't push down on all the things that he said on Banfield, and there was a couple comments that mirrored something that I've already said when comparing the way that Steve is on like certain places. Like, okay, whenever he did the panel of interviews before the Dateline series, he was this like huge aggressive guy with Daniel over on Drunk Turkey. Then with Banfield, he still like says certain things, but he's not as like raw, you know what I mean? And then he went over on the interview room and he's with Christy and he's just like this silent, different person. So he was saying a bunch of crazy stuff, like for real, crazy stuff on Ashley Banfield's channel last night. But then this morning he's calm. I mean, maybe because it's national TV, but like she has over 200,000 subscribers ever since she made that channel. So thousands of people see her. Probably, honestly, more people are going to see what she did with him than these mainstream channels, if you want to be for real. So, I mean, like he says a couple things, but he doesn't go anywhere near as ridiculous as he did with Banfield. But the first one that we're going to listen to is the one that Anjanette Levy did with Chief Jenkins. And I feel like this one's extremely important. This came out today. This is extremely important because in everything that he is telling her, there is nothing in here and anything that he says about whenever he started investigating whatever he needed to investigate after he was told from Chief Fry, you know, who the person was or whatever. There is nothing in his dialect, nothing in his recollection that would lead you to believe that while he was looking up things about Bryan Kohberger, that Bryan Kohberger was no longer employed with WSU. That's what I'm looking for. Because they keep trying to say, and like I said in my review video, the 19th, if there was anything going on, the 19th being the day that the feds called the name in would make perfect sense. But considering that there was already an investigation into whatever was going on at WSU, and we've already heard in court, he was found to have done nothing wrong. He was found to have done no wrongdoing, nothing wrong. It just wouldn't make sense for them to have fired him ahead of time if they literally just did an entire internal investigation into some complaints and he was found to have done nothing wrong. That's not normally how that works. That's why it still doesn't add up. It still makes no sense. It still doesn't add up. We've seen a lot of things that just make us question all the things. So we're going to go through these again. It's at 1.15 speed and I have to put a filter on it and I flipped it so that they can't give me any crap, so that they can't tell me anything. Because I had the Associated Press, oh, I like having these on there, so let me turn that on. I had the Associated Press mess with me for trying to find a feed of the victims' families talking outside of the courthouse after the thing the other day. I had to like take an entire piece out, so we're going to watch this. Just watch how he talks. Like he was in the Amazon Prime. A lot of people in the comments are kind of aggravated with them, though, because they're saying police chief in Bryan Kohberger case speaks or whatever. And everyone in the comments is like, he was not the police chief whenever this was going on. He was the police chief in April, up until April. Then he went over to WSU. And it's just one of those like headlines because he's not the police chief in the case. He's a police chief in the case. But then what we're hearing basically really is that they didn't really ask for any help from WSU. Like we learn in the book, we learn from the series, we learn from this interview now that he called Chief Fry when Chief Fry was on his way back to Moscow from being out of town with his wife and offered his help. And at that time, Fry didn't, I never turn that off. And it always scares me. So anyway, so WSU really didn't end up helping as much as I originally thought because I have my, well, Pullman, I guess, would be the same. Well, WSU and Pullman. Because I have my FOIAs and stuff in, But then, like, hearing that, I feel like the queries of, like, them pulling up the car originally and being like, oh, it's the wrong year. You know, like, we've seen that stuff in the Amazon series. And I feel like that's really about, like, as far as it goes. Because, again, they did an internal investigation into these complaints, and the complaints were all basically about grading. So if he was found not to have done anything wrong, it sounds like he was still definitely an employee. So we're going to listen to this because it's definitely important.
Chief Gary Jenkins. He is the police chief at Washington State University and was the police chief at the Pullman Police Department in 2022, in April of 2022. So Chief Jenkins, thank you.
So April of 2022 would have been a couple of months before that. But I don't even think that's actually accurate. Is that even right? I don't even think that's right. Is that right? That he was police chief in Moscow in April? I could have sworn that's what she said.
So I'd like to bring in Chief Gary Jenkins. He is the police chief at Washington State University and was the police chief at the Pullman Police Department in 2022, in April of 2020.
I thought that she said Moscow for a second. Okay.
Me too. So Chief Jenkins, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, take me back, if you will, to that interview that you did with Bryan Kohberger for the internship.
Oh, and in case you guys missed it, but some of y'all were here for that data pool that I got from the city of Pullman had all of the emails, like all of it's pretty much been out for the majority, pretty much all of it. But they also gave me the emails that they where they were scheduling the Zoom meetings, the actual like invite for the Zoom meeting, and then technically like the applications and all like the email like chain of all the people that were discussing everything, but they're all blacked out. The applications was like the biggest redaction of the whole thing.
The research assistantship program. Does anything stand out to you from that interview?
You know, there was nothing that was really significant about that interview or that stood out about it. I interviewed 4 people, 2 on one day, 2 on the next, all on Zoom. And I just made an assessment about who would be the best fit for that position and selected someone other than Bryan Kohberger.
Mm-hmm. And there was only one position open.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Just one position.
And he was applying in his essay, he said, for not only a position possibly for consideration with the city of Pullman, but also with the city of Pasco.
Right. Well, that program is run through the Washington State University Criminal Justice and
I don't think I'd heard the Pasco thing before. That doesn't ring a bell for me.
Criminology program, and they had that program running at Pullman Police Department and the Pasco Police Department. So there was a position open in each department.
Why did you feel that Bryan Kohberger was not the right fit for that position?
So that position really requires someone who can establish trust and rapport with my staff. And that's not an easy task with law enforcement, someone coming in from the outside that's not law enforcement. It's difficult to develop that trust to be an effective researcher. And in talking with him,
this is not a good, he looks creepy in this photo. Like, I don't know why they ended up cutting his hair and all that stuff the way that they did, but this is not a good photo. I know why they chose
communicate in a fluid or conversational manner. He wasn't particularly personable. And so I just didn't feel like he would be able to develop that trust or rapport with my staff, and therefore wouldn't be an effective researcher with us.
So you felt like he wasn't going to be able to make any enough connections with people in the office in order to be able to do stuff. But that's not true, because we hear about the way that he did his group projects back into sales. And the guy is like, yeah, he did great research. He was attentive. He always asked if I needed any help with anything. So, I mean, maybe his demeanor was that way, but his history, at least of working in a group, would sort of show otherwise. I think
something like, oh, this guy's got some red flags.
Oh, look, it looks like it. It looks like it. Some people don't think that it's like a jailhouse haircut. That's a jailhouse haircut. That is somebody trying to use like a razor, or somebody who's like been approved to be like the jailhouse like barber, and they probably do a lot of things inside of the jail when it comes to grooming their like facial hair and things like that a lot of you guys probably just wouldn't believe. for real. So I don't know if they did it on purpose because of the whole like bushy eyebrow thing, or if it was just like the preference of the person doing stuff with him. But it definitely would have been like someone inside. I've seen people inside get haircuts and stuff like that before, that close to the skin. It's definitely a jailhouse haircut.
But it was more like, maybe he's a little awkward. He's just not going to be a good fit.
Right. I didn't pick up on anything that was a significant red flag. It just was a matter of not being a good fit.
And he does kind of have a more formal, I guess, if you would, way of speaking from the little bit we've seen. And even in his essay that he wrote, I mean, it's very, for lack of a better word, I mean, it's very formally written, as you would expect, but it's also.
Yeah, remember the Cora stuff that we went over? He responds very detailed. So I think the reason why he had a lot of issues with the way that people were like doing their papers is because a lot of it was probably lazy. This was after the pandemic, whenever a lot of people got away with a lot of things because of the situation. You know what I mean? So maybe he was just trying to like hold people up to his own standard, which I can see would probably be frustrating to then have a professor be like, oh, you've got to like chill out a little bit. Whenever, when he's looking at these papers, he's like, these people shouldn't even be here. They're not even paying attention. That's probably how it really was. You have to think of the timing. Because I know how it was whenever my kids first started online school. That's why I ended up homeschooling them myself and creating my own curriculum for them, because it was nothing. It was a lot of nothing. It was a lot of just time take up crap. Not a lot of learning, a lot of just like letting a lot of stuff slide. I can imagine it was just as bad in college.
So I would say on the wonky side.
Yeah. I think he has an awkward way of communicating verbally and in writing. And so that
I had to
that definitely was something I recall.
So Chief Jenkins, let's now fast forward a little bit from the spring of 2022 to fall of 2022. The homicides happen on King Road.
Right. Exactly. Oh, and thank you. I got your Cash App the other day. And thank you, Lisa, too, if she's in here. I got your PayPal earlier. Thank you guys so much.
And no, it's not in your jurisdiction, but my God, it's literally in your community. On my visits to Pullman and Moscow, it's almost like one big community, even though they're in two different states. It was always described to me that, there's a lot of going back and forth, people from Pullman to Moscow and vice versa, maybe for shopping. And a lot of the kids in Pullman know some of the kids in Moscow. Too. So this had to be just absolutely shocking and startling. I'm thinking, my God, 10-minute drive away, 15-minute drive away, this happened.
It was shocking. It definitely was not in character for our region. And we are close-knit community.
I mean, you can't really say that. It's just like the, we never lock our doors thing. You can't really say that. We've dug into at least enough to know y'all have some stuff going on. There's like YouTube channels. I don't know if they are people that have just been like following Idaho, like this Idaho case, or if they're people that just like to go and run jail reports and just make videos about who's been arrested and what the hell's happening. But there are channels that do that for Moscow, for Pullman, for Spokane, and they just pull up the jail roster and they do a video every day. There's thievery all over the place. There's people getting into all kinds of like assault situations. It is not this nice little silver town that they keep trying to pretend that it is. It's really not.
We're somewhat isolated. The next closest bigger city would be either a 40-minute drive down to the Lewiston area or hour and a half drive up to Spokane. So we rely on each other a lot. And so that does make us close-knit, and we work together frequently. And on that day, when I heard about it, I made a cell phone call to Chief Fry to offer any kind of assistance that they might need. And he was actually out of town, I believe, in his car, traveling back to Moscow. And so he thanked me for the offer, and he said he would let me know if we needed it.
Yeah, exactly. Bombshell said, I always said that probably was one of those easy A classes, and the students got pissed that they happened to take it when there was a new teacher's aide that wasn't about the easy A. Yeah, or they just got used to like not having to hardly do anything. Because there's clips. I have clips of women that had done, well, at least one clip. Plus there's like 2 articles. Plus we have the Cassie girl. So that's technically like 4. different people, women that had the class, that he didn't grade them that way. Like, he was more elaborate on how much he liked what they were doing with their work, not completely just being ridiculous about it. And there's men too that have come out and said, you know, he didn't grade me that way, but this other guy said that he graded him like that. So to me, it really is just that. It's like they didn't want to do the work up to the standard that maybe he thought they should be. And maybe he didn't like the way Professor Snyder was okay with that. That's what it sounds like, in the most innocence of sense. You know what I mean?
If he needed anything from us. And ultimately he didn't. They brought in a lot of other resources. A lot of times that state line is somewhat of a barrier in with regard to resources. But if someone needs something quickly, we definitely provide assistance to each other.
This had to be something, though, since you also, are in charge of basically keeping students safe, something that you might have been closely monitoring.
Sure. And we, just like.
See, this is true too. You know, from being a criminal justice student, that they teach more about developing trust with the public rather than the internal rapport. Yeah. And that's a lot of what like James Fry talks about in the book, is trying to, it all happened with that kid. I can't remember the kid's name right now, but I mentioned it in the last book review episode that I did. The one that was out drinking, was two-way inebriated to even be left alone, wandered for a few hours out in the cold in the middle of the night with it snowing and disgustingly disgusting outside. He was in a woman's basement, and instead of her calling the cops or getting him help or letting him sleep it off because she realized he was just some harmless college student, according to the story, she made him leave the house and didn't do nothing to help him find his way back to the house or call anyone for him. And then there was someone else who saw him in the window whenever he came to their house to try to get out of the cold, and they just like shoot him away. And then another one that like woke up but didn't like notice anything, and then whatever. So there was like multiple people that saw this kid, and he ended up dying because no one wanted to call the cops to help him because they didn't want to get the kid in trouble. So Fry basically uses that case as like where he started to try to like put something together in order to try to get the kids to trust them more. But that's not good in these college situations, because you're basically, you're messing around with adult and on adult situations. And you've got these young ass cops working around the university with these freaking 18, 19-year-olds, newly free, acting like psychopaths. Okay, we all know how these college kids really act. They're feral as shit whenever they first get there, around all these new young cops. I mean, Nunez was only 22. I don't care that he was married. He's still 22 years old. There's all kinds of young officers in there. So while I do understand and I respect that, wanting to have the community, have the, community trust, there's a catch-22 to it. There's a catch-22 to it.
Like there was a vandal alert that was sent out to the University of Idaho campus. We also sent out an alert to the Washington State University campus to let them know what had happened and to, take precautions. And
I wonder what time that was. And I wonder if they have a phone ping for Bryan Kohberger's phone to see where he was whenever that came in. Because that would be interesting too. We already know from, I'll say we sort of know. We sort of know from the Dateline leak information that the first time he Googled it was 11/16, which was the date of the press conference. So it would be interesting. Well, I mean, I'm sure he got the alert, but if he didn't actually Google the crime until the 16th, I wonder why he wouldn't have looked it up after he got the vandal alert. I mean, not the vandal alert, but the one for WSU. But I've also wondered if he was also involved in some sort of student chat boards, because Yik Yak for the university, the two, I think they work for like the university paper. They're talking about it in the book. The students, the actual students that had access to Yik Yak for the student boards, we're talking about cartel situations and Emma frickin' Bailey. Like, she was being discussed on like few hours in on Yik Yak, according to the book. There's a lot of stuff going on when it comes to rumors and things, including like like everything, a lot of talk. So it really makes you wonder just how much was actually seen inside the house by some of the kids that were there, by some of the people that were there, or what else was like shared around for them to know like certain things in order to come up with anything. But there was also like all the things that ended up on social media was being talked about by the students that exact same day. They were like, these two like student reporters were watching all of these things being talked about and being like, but there's no proof of any of this, so we can't like do an article, we can't do a post or an update. And then they said that they saw some news station report that it was a situation. I don't remember ever seeing that. So I might try to find it eventually and see if it's still out there, where they reported it as this situation, because that's what the Goncalveses were originally told. So I'm really questioning like who called the news and told them that. If the Goncalveses were getting information from anyone else, I wonder if they called a news station and was like, well, this is what my niece told me, and they just went with it instead of verifying it. Yes, Bailey's been mentioned in the book. Just about the conversation. Just about them talking about her being around the house. Like, I don't even know what page it's on. It's, let me look. I probably won't find it, and I'm not going to waste too much time finding it because it'll be in the review thing, but I'm curious about which page it's on, because they're talking about the student boards. And it's all the same day. But there's also like a lot of stuff about Hunter in here that's really crazy. Okay, yeah. It starts, I guess, really on like page 170. Yeah, it starts whenever they start talking about Daniel Ramirez, a journalist for the Argonaut, and Hadiya Tariq. And they start talking about the stuff that everyone's talking about on Yik Yak, and they're calling it conspiracy theories. And that the consensus on Yik Yak was that it was a party house. So a lot of students thought that it was a Fent OD situation. But then look right here on page 171. I don't know if y'all can see that. Well, let me see if I can point it out. My middle finger. That's Emma Bailey's name. So on day freaking 1, on November 13th, the students are discussing Emma Bailey's involvement, possible involvement. I found that really interesting.
Just so that they knew that there was a serious crime, quadruple homicide that occurred, and the killer was loose. And so we wanted to make sure that people were aware of that and they can take their own precautions.
A bolo went out in November, a couple of weeks after the homicides, to law enforcement only.
I try not to have these.
And there were a couple of Washington State University officers who actually noticed that there was a white Hyundai Elantra owned by Bryan Kohberger on campus. It was a different, year than they were looking for. But can you explain to me what happened with that? Because it's mentioned in the problem.
I'm not sure what the crowns are for. On YouTube, like on my end, it just says something about like top commenters or something like that. So I guess it just like, it counts how many times you leave a comment, and then I guess it like will automatically change the rank of whoever is doing the most. Yeah, top commenters. I don't see it on, I don't have like my live screen on YouTube up and my StreamYard one, just StreamYard. So I can't see like the little pictures that y'all are sending with like the super stickers, which actually I think I saw something that I passed. Thank you for the $2 super sticker, Kimberly. Thank you. But I can't see like the little picture person on it, and I can't see the crowns. And like whenever somebody gives memberships, like the other day, somebody gifted 50 freaking memberships. Holy crap. And like over on the live thing, I could see like, like all the green, because it had like happened beforehand whenever I was still running around the house, but I couldn't see anything on this side. So it doesn't let me see. That's why I want to switch over to Streamlabs, but technology scares me and I don't like learning new programs. So that's why I haven't done it yet, nor have I fixed Nightbot, because I tried Nightbot for one time and it like tried to block a member for doing something that she didn't even do. So I'm like, gotta get that out of here because I don't know what's going on. So we'll see. But I would like to be able to see more. And you can on Streamlabs. So I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Will cause affidavit. But I feel like there's a lot of confusion about that because people think, oh, well, they were looking at him that early.
Okay, this is about, because I talked a bunch, like cut it off right here. This is about the fact that there's mentions of the car being spotted by WSU police officers in the probable cause affidavit. And honestly, just that alone, broskies, just that alone, just the fact that now we know that they originally did have the info on the car because they did see it, but that it didn't match the year that they internally had on the bolo, so they never even turned it in. That right there should be enough to throw out that probable cause affidavit, because that portion right there is written to make you believe that that is part of the investigation that happened before the feds made that phone call. And that's not true, which we've known that forever. But I just can't believe that that right then was not enough to cause something to happen, like to show all of the lies. At least they're showing up one by one. Damn.
But that's really not the case, I don't think, because, they then made that a public bolo on December 7th.
Yeah, but it was a different year.
Right. The bolo that we got was, I think, identical to the one that eventually went.
Except it was the literal year was like the only thing edited.
Went out to the public, but this was on November 28th. They sent a bolo out to the local law enforcement agencies with a vehicle of interest that they labeled as law enforcement sensitive, meaning that we should not share it beyond the law enforcement community. And the description of the vehicle was a white Hyundai Elantra with between the years of 2011 and 2013. And so one of our officers, within 16 hours of receiving that bolo, was checking our parking database that includes information about vehicles that have parking permits or that pay to park on campus, and found a white Hyundai Elantra that was with Pennsylvania plates registered to Bryan Kohberger, but it was a 2015. So the bolo was very specific about the vehicle make, the vehicle model, and the vehicle year parameters and the color.
Okay, I don't know. I don't remember if he goes on to say the rest of it about the officer seeing the car. So I'll make this quick. In the PCA, it has this portion he just said about the database search first, and then it has the parking lot guy. When he said the story in Amazon, he said it opposite. He said the parking lot guy saw the car, and that's whenever they ran the plate, saw that Bryan was in the system because he'd been pulled over in October, but that the year didn't match. I know that's like a minute detail, but it's like, why is that still like confusing?
So he didn't submit that as a tip. And then later, that was on graveyard shift.
It posted today, but I don't know if she talked to him today or like recently, because at the end of this, they mentioned the plea deal. So it's recent.
And then later on day shift, one of our officers was driving around and saw that same vehicle parked in graduate student housing. And again, it was.
Yeah. And Ann Taylor said that when it came to this situation, that she had correspondence to show that they didn't have a conversation about it until after they had Bryan's name. And in the dump of information that I had just gotten from Pullman, there's a thread in there, an email thread from Brett Payne to Moscow asking for the spreadsheet that was created. They call it the love spreadsheet. And it's like August 2024, either April or August 24. And I'm like, why in the actual hell are you asking for this in 2024? Wouldn't they have gotten that information? I could have sworn they said that they went and got that information like right after the feds called them on 12/19, and they very well could have. But I found it odd that this damn email thread has Brett Payne emailing Pullman in 2024 for this spreadsheet. Shouldn't the spreadsheet have been like in the evidence from day one? I'm going to have to pull that portion out and like do a video on it separately. I'm going to work on getting all of the files put together in a Google Drive this weekend too.
It's not within the date parameters.
So those two officers didn't end up sending that information over to Moscow PD because of the date discrepancy or the model year discrepancy?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct. Yeah, it was not sent over to their tip line.
There were so many YouTube channels that said that everyone else was wrong and that this is really whenever they had their eyes on Bryan Kohberger. Was this. I fought that the whole way. I was right the whole damn time.
Interesting. So did it just come up that they had queried it on that date?
Right. When when Moscow PD did identify Bryan Kohberger as a suspect and connected him with the vehicle, then they ran some checks to see who had run that plate previously and discovered those two officers had checked the vehicle, as well as a previous traffic stop that one of our officers made on Bryan Kohberger in his vehicle from
October.
I think back in October.
So let's fast forward. When is the next time you hear from Chief Fry about this investigation?
So I got a text from Chief Fry on December 19th asking if I could meet with him at Moscow Police Department the next morning.
Okay. The next morning, which would be 12:20. Okay. 12:20, which, if the boo-boo they're throwing out there was true, would mean that Home Dude would have been fired the day before this guy met with Chief Fry. Listen to the way that he talks. Listen to it. He doesn't start looking into Kohberger until the day after, on the 20th. Listen to the way he says things.
And so I went to Moscow PD the next morning and met Chief Fry out in their lobby,
20th.
and he walked me upstairs. And we went into a room that included their entire investigative team. I think there were maybe 30 or 40 people in that room. And I was the only.
I bet you that was right after they met with the FBI to go over the genealogy tree. Because what we learned from Payne, it might be good to go back over those transcripts from that closed hearing in January, honestly. Because I still have a bunch of questions about how the knife sheath information got down to Othram. Anyway, we heard from Payne that, again, on the stand, 12:19, they get a call. The guy you're looking for is Bryan Christopher Kohberger. No further information. Nothing. The next day, they all get together on Microsoft Teams, according to what he said. And that's whenever they were presented with like a PowerPoint presentation of the genealogy workup. So I bet you he had them come over. He had the chief come over there and meet with them right after that meeting was over, whenever they just like got all the genealogy information, and now they're trying to figure out what to do. That was probably a really tense room to walk into, if you want to be so for real.
Only non-investigative team person in that room. They had held a couple of regional
people. A lot of people think the 19th, and if he was fired, the 19th would make sense for the date, because that's the day that the feds called in his name. So in my thinking, if that's the case, which again, I find no proof that that's the case, and I'm sticking to that. I find no proof that he was fired until after all this crazy shit happened and they had to trespass him off the property and all the other things. But if for somehow something did happen on the 19th, that's why I said in my previous video that I feel like it'd be wrongful termination, because the internal investigation into Kohberger proved that he had done nothing wrong. So for him to have just randomly been fired on the 19th after being proven to have done nothing wrong would have been like, oh, the feds called and were like, hey, we're coming after you, boy. And they were like, oh, crap, we didn't fire him. Now we've got to get rid of him type thing. But they can't do that. And I don't see any proof of that. It's just that it's also the same date that the feds called. That's why people bring it up.
Law enforcement briefings before, but this time it was just me. And so as soon as I walked in, I knew that they had something big and that it was somehow related to Washington State University. So they told me that they had developed a suspect based on DNA at the crime scene. And that suspect was a Washington State University graduate student by the name of Bryan Kohberger, who lived on the WSU campus in graduate student housing. And when I heard the name, it's somewhat of an unusual name. It took me a minute, but then I remembered that I had interviewed Bryan Kohberger, and I told the investigative team I had interviewed him previously for that intern position, and I had his resume and cover letter for that position that I could provide to them. His eyebrows look
really thin right there.
And then after that, I collected information about his apartment where he lived and his graduate assistant student office that he shared with another PhD student. And
she's about to ask a good question. Y'all pay attention.
Prepare a search warrant later.
Interesting. And so that was back on December 19th that Chief Fry texted you?
Correct.
Not just
okay,
yet.
because that's the same day the FBI said, you guys need to look at this guy. That's when they got the name from the FBI through the genetic genealogy. So I think that's really interesting. So when he says this to you and you're standing in the room and,
she's going to say something in a few minutes about the girl, the one about the apartment break-in or whatever, where she was like, oh, Bryan, come save me. And then everyone twisted into a crazy ass story. She's going to ask about that too. Thanks for the $5, Jules. Thank you, Jules, for always keeping it real and telling it exactly like it is. My fave channel for updates. Proud 14-month member here. Keep doing what you do. Well, thank you for being here for so long. We're named twinsies. So that's awesome too.
Are you kind of floored?
The hair on the back of my neck stood up. It was chilling to hear that he was a suspect, and for one, that he had been living on WSU campus, and that I had interviewed him some months prior.
And I know I'm kind of asking you to speculate a little bit here, but at this point he's a suspect. But the DNA is a pretty damning and overwhelming piece of evidence. It's a strong connection. Plus, you have the white vehicle. As far as circumstantial evidence goes, those are two very incredible pieces of evidence. So are you thinking to yourself, I'm assuming you spring into chief mode. I mean, you've got to get to work, but you're saying the hair stood up on the back of your neck and you had interviewed him. Are you thinking, oh my God, we could have hired this guy and he, to be an intern, and he could have been in our department, and maybe this was, maybe even thinking back now, was this going to be a cover for him to be involved in a police department so he could maybe run around and commit crimes?
Well, I mean, that's always
Like
possible.
Dexter?
It's also possible that this had all been calculated and he was hoping to be in a position to find out about confidential information. And so, yeah, there's lots of possibilities there. But ultimately, I definitely was, I was very relieved that I had not hired him.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, that would have looked really bad.
There,
that would have looked so bad if he wasn't only a TA, but also was the research assistant. That would have looked so bad.
You go back to WSU and you have to get to work because that stuff is going to be happening. So what do you do after that?
Well, they had asked me not to share that information with anyone, including my own department. So for me, I was getting information about where he was working on campus and where he lived on campus again.
The interesting common theme is that as much as they've tried to pretend, I'm saying pretend, as much as they try to pretend that Moscow and Pullman work together, for every single time something was offered of them, Fry told them no. And even now, whenever they've got, they know for a fact at this point that Bryan is not there. They know that he's in freaking Pennsylvania. They saw him, the FBI saw him at the CVS in Pennsylvania on the 16th. We know about the traffic stops on the 15th. There's no reason for keep this hush-hush and don't tell anyone in your department. We want you to help us make sure that we've got everything that we need to on this guy, but don't bring in any other police officers to help us do that thing. But they work together all the time. They're close-knit and work together all the time. It doesn't sound like that. Unless there's a reason why Moscow was trying to make sure that WSU wasn't involved from the beginning. Just seems like opposite from what they're trying to portray it as.
And because I knew that there would be search warrants served at some time. And then ultimately when they kept me in the loop about when they were planning to make the arrest and serve a search warrant at Bryan Kohberger's home in Pennsylvania, we wanted the search warrants to be served pretty much simultaneously, just so there were no issues with any potentially someone else that may have been involved or assisting that could circumvent, those warrants. So
because they probably were really
we
positive.
ended up serving those warrants on December 30th. We had Idaho State Police come over to assist our staff with those warrants and doing the searches.
So when do you get the call that, okay, we've got him in custody and you can go in and do the search warrant now?
Well, we had a tentative time set up.
Yeah. They ignored all of their DNA evidence, including 3 unknown male profiles, 2 of which were blood. Yeah, the stairs and the glove, they were blood. Which, how do you just like not give a damn about the DNA on the glove outside of the house right after this kind of crime happens? Why would you just not care at all? Like, even if you wanted to say, oh, there's no proof that whoever did this even went down and used this stairs, so there's no reason for us to test this handrail, why would you let the glove go unanswered? Talk about stupid.
It was early in the morning of December 30th. And then we got a call that they
always
had
put those stupid
made entry to the house and made the arrest. And then that's when we started the warrant. It was,
can't remember
I think maybe 5 or 6 in the morning.
And when you get in there, what's it like?
The apartment was sparse. It didn't look like someone was actively living there. It was almost to the point where someone maybe was not planning to come back.
See, he says that, but then we know from the damn inventory reports how much crap they actually took. All kinds of electronics, stuff from his kitchen. I mean, there was even a pizza cutter thingy. And then he even says there's clothes that he left there. The only thing that wasn't there was trash, so that the damn place didn't stink while he was gone. And he got rid of a damn Dollar Tree shower curtain, probably a Dollar Tree shower curtain, that can just be replaced because he didn't want it to probably smell like nasty old mildew mold whenever he got back. There were still clothes there, electronics, all kinds of stuff. So the way that they're describing this, okay, so the guy was a minimalist. He had barely even been there. Was he expecting them to have like all of his childhood knickknacks and stuff like all over the place? What is he expecting this apartment to look like? He was not even sharing it. Like the second room where there was supposed to be technically, I guess, a roommate, because they said it was completely locked. I'm guessing that they had proof it was never opened because they never got anything out of there. And they addressed the door in the search warrant. Like they addressed the fact that they went, nothing was in it. So the way that he's trying to describe it right now is an aura of, oh, he was never coming back. Well, if you don't know the inventory report, then that's what you're probably going to believe. But there was all kinds of crap in that apartment. There was even chairs outside, and people said that they would see him sitting outside sometimes in the chairs on the little patio. It's just ridiculous.
So it was not a typical occupied type of an apartment.
But it was for a dude who
So,
just
lack
lived
of,
there.
no clothes hanging in the closet, or was it just no books, or just, was there furniture? Or could you
There was the furniture, very few clothes, not even a shower curtain.
See? He probably took everything that he had worn and brought it home so that his mom could do his laundry. Let's be so for real.
I don't recall if there were any books there, but there was just very little.
So Chief Jenkins, you guys get in there and the place looks like it's deserted, essentially.
We all heard the same thing, right? Like we all heard the same description. Thank you for the $2, Jules. Yeah, what is the definition of a typical apartment? He barely had been living there. It's not like he constantly entertained people. He didn't have a reason to have a bunch of stuff. And there was still a bunch of crap left in there. But we all heard the way that they talked about this. And then they want to act like, oh, it's just deserted. He was never coming back. Oh my God. No, that is not at all. That sounds like a guy that barely got there and doesn't know anybody and is OCD and autistic and probably keeps things real minimal because he likes it that way. I mean, the way that they're trying to, this is why I have issues with this kind of stuff, because the truth is already like screwed up enough, right? But how are we ever supposed to get to what the actual truth of anything is? Whenever there's people out here having conversations like this, and there's thousands of people listening to it, they're all hearing the exact same definitions, but they're unaware of the inventory report that shows all of these things that actually were taken in. And they're just going to sit here and listen to the descriptive words. And they're not going to pay attention to the small details. They're going to hear scarce, scarce. They're going to hear all the things that make it sound as if he was on the run. That's just not the case.
So you get in there and you do the work of executing a search warrant. So what do you do next?
Well, Idaho State Police collected some items, and we held on to it. They couldn't take it into Idaho yet without a court order since it's across state lines. So we held on to those items until a court order was obtained, and then Idaho State Police came over and picked up the evidence. We're doing a lot of communication with our campus.
So y'all still, hold up. So that shit with Don Daniels didn't have to wait. See, that just makes this even more sketchy, broskies. So if ISP didn't like come and get the stuff yet, that means that Don Daniels had time in between leaving his damn apartment after the search, realizing that she left the blood evidence stuff out of the return. She had time to put it where it belonged before ISP came to get it because they had to obtain the warrant. And she still didn't do it. And instead of all of this close-knitness, you know, instead of her just driving it over to wherever she had to because they already had a warrant for the stuff and there's like some sort of issue, she waits until Ann Taylor comes to his apartment 10 whole days later and gives it to her then. I didn't know that there was a waiting period where this woman could have fixed this issue before it became an issue. Now I need to know the time. I need a time frame. I need a time frame now. I need to know when they left I need to know when they left his apartment and when ISP came and picked this damn shit up, because that's how long she would have had to fix her damn mistake. And she still chose not to. That's wild. That's wild.
Campus students and faculty and staff were concerned and scared. This was, however, during winter break, so there were not a lot of people on campus at the time, but there were still students that would be coming back for the next semester.
I think I missed stuff. I did miss things. Danny, thank you for the $5, Danny. You need a cape. Hit like said, but yeah. I'll just let that sit there. I don't like saying that stuff out loud. It makes me uncomfortable to say all that stuff out loud. But I'll put it up on the screen. Thank you for the $5 again, Sadie. I can't believe people believe they're stupid. I can't believe people believe stupid served right up in front of them. Yeah, no joke. That's what I don't understand. Like they're hearing the exact same thing that we're hearing. I don't know how we can understand what they're trying to actually do here, and so many people are just like taking it in and not seeing through it. I guess I'm still just like surprised that that's like still a problem these days. Thank you for the $5 super sticker, Julie. I appreciate it. Sorry that I missed that stuff. I don't get to, like, it doesn't really show me the way that I
and
wish
parents that have been following this. And so we spent a lot of effort with all of our campus partners, with our Dean of Students office and counseling and psychological services, president's office and the provost's office, just communicating with everyone about what we knew, what measures we're taking to keep our campus safe, and a commitment to keep everyone informed with the information we had.
As the case moves forward and it's heading toward trial, he tried to get all of the evidence thrown out, of course, and those efforts failed. We heard about the stargazing, driving around, alibi, all of these things. I mean, were you following this?
Thank you for the $2, Jules. I still eyeball Brett freaking Payne just saying, look, we're going to talk about it. God, I hate having like so many different things in this case to constantly have to talk about, because everything just gets like out of order. But we need to sit here and discuss Kopacka being one of the alternate perpetrators and Steve Goncalves like validating that several times in his statements that he made. So we're going to have to actually like dig into it, even though I really didn't want to. I've actually been emailing back and forth with Jules a couple of things. She sent me some stuff with some connections to some things. Just a bigger overview. We're going to have to look more at it. I didn't want to ever have to dig into that because I could tell that he definitely had PTSD from serving. So we're going to have to tiptoe, broskies, but we don't have a choice. We have to talk about it.
Closely in the news, or was it just something that kind of was happening in the background?
No, I was following it. Very interested to see how it was going to play out. We obviously had a big stake into what had happened and what is going to happen. So we followed it closely.
Mm-hmm. So he's heading toward trial. Everybody's getting ready for a trial. I mean, obviously, the police, the Moscow PD, the Latah County prosecutor's office, everybody's preparing for a trial. The courts are preparing for a trial. And then.
No, she's not talking about now. She's basically telling like the timeline. She's going down the timeline because she mentions the fact that there's been a plea deal and stuff now. So when I first heard that, I was like, dang, did he talk before the gag order was lifted? What the frick? But no, she says, she mentions the plea deal later. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Because for a second I was like, whoa.
Boom. Plea deal.
Yeah. See, took me a second.
What was your reaction when you found out about that?
Well, initially I was surprised, particularly with how aggressive the defense had been in their motions. And so I wouldn't have guessed that there would have been a plea deal. But ultimately, I'm relieved. I think it's a great deal, and I think I understand that some of the victims' families have difference of opinion about that plea deal, and I don't fault any of them for the opinions that they have. I can't imagine what they're going through and how they're dealing with it. But I think in the long run, it's a good deal because whenever there's a death penalty case, there's always appeals and continued hearings. And every time that happens, that brings everything back up, particularly for the victims' families. And so I think it's going to be good for, I think it does bring them justice. I know it's not exactly what some families wanted, but I think it's a good deal.
And if you really kind of break it down and think about what could have happened.
It's not really that it's something that the families didn't want. It's that it wasn't done the way the families all could have benefited from it. They don't have any details of anything. And even though at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter what the frick they want. Sorry, it doesn't. The courts don't give a shit. The courts don't care. The courts are going to do whatever the frick the courts want to do. But if they would have at least been like, here's the damn details. This is why we want to go ahead and do this plea deal, because we have these details. You didn't have these details, but now that this is the route that we're going, here you go. Here's everything that we've been holding from you this entire time. That would be different. This would be a completely different show tonight. Okay? That's not what happened, and that's not fair. And I understand, what he said, some of the families don't want it. Some of them do. Some of them are okay with it. Me personally would be like Steve and Christy. I would need to know everything. And that's why I'm really surprised about one of the people that are okay with everything. Because she agreed with that portion of this for a long time. About needing to know everything. She said that she would have to. And then that changed. So, I don't know. I would definitely be more like, no, I need to know every damn detail. You crazy as hell if you think I'm going to even shut my mouth 1 second with just some damn vague yeses and whatevers.
And, even if he was convicted by the jury at trial, there was no guarantee that the jury would then later come back with a verdict or a recommendation that he be sentenced to death. I mean, it just takes one juror.
Right. Yeah, there were lots of unknowns, lots of what ifs had it played out. So this removes all of that.
Mm-hmm. There were a lot.
Like for Aurelio? Only plea convictions, no trials? They really try to make him out. I'm going to have to actually dig into him more than I thought. I would have never guessed that he never went to an actual trial. Because this book tries to make him sound like he's just this big hard ass. I'm like, sure.
A lot of rumors and things like that after his arrest that possibly he could have done some strange things on the WSU campus or around Pullman. There were rumors about a break-in at the chemistry lab and, things like that. And there was also some reporting by Dateline NBC that he had possibly broken into the apartment of his office mate at Wilson Short Hall, a woman with whom he shared an office and with whom he was friendly. Are you able to?
According to Dateline, not just friendly. She wanted to be in a romantic relationship with him. This is the literal chronological order of how this story was told. She wanted to be with Kohberger. He rejected her. Then at some point down the line, her apartment got broken into. She says something got moved around. Something else got taken out. She calls Bryan and he goes and spends the night at her apartment. That apparently nothing happened, but to make her feel safe, she called him over there and he went and spent the night at her apartment. Then later, the whole camera situation, but it's because she trusted him. It wasn't until all this crazy stuff happened that story got all kinds of twisted. So no one even really knows if that girl actually ended up having like any of those thoughts after he became like the person that was arrested, or if Nancy Grace, because she's really the one who took that story and went stupid with it. Or if she just like took it and is the one that actually twisted it. But that's how Dateline put it. So it wasn't just friendly, according to their sources. And again, not everything that they put out there is probably true. But the fact that their leak information is being investigated makes me want to believe a lot of what they said. And again, not a lot of what they said really did a lot. There was some funkated ass searches, but when it came to that, anything else, there was nothing to substantiate evidence, to show evidence of anything. I wish that she would come out and actually like be honest and talk about stuff, because it'd be interesting to know more details about that situation. Because the way that they also tried to put it was that like she already had like a weird feeling like before she had him come and help her. And I'm like, that's not how that works. Women aren't going to go up to some strange man that makes them feel uncomfortable and ask him to come into her apartment and put cameras up. That's not how that works. So yeah, the truth would be great.
Give us any insight into either of those events.
I don't have any evidence to show that he did. I did hear about the break-in of someone that he worked with or a neighbor. And that was never reported to us. And so it was something that.
So your on-campus apartment gets broken into in the freaking middle of the night. And instead of calling the police over, you call the guy that rejected you and you have him come and spend the night in your apartment. I'm sorry. This is why I don't believe it. It was never reported to the police. The whole thing is bullshit.
That we didn't investigate. So we just don't have any evidence to show that he.
Like something special apparently got taken. Wasn't it something like a family member gave her? Or something like that? Like it was something like that had sentimental value that she tried to say was just like gone. And something else had been moved and some stuff in her cabinets and stuff had been moved around. You don't report that? You don't report that to the cops? You call the guy you like over, but you don't like make a police report? Like call the guy that you like over, but also have the police officer meet you at your apartment and do a report. I don't understand why that didn't happen.
Committed any crimes on campus.
What are your thoughts?
What was that whole thing he said?
Any evidence to show that he did. I did hear about the break-in of someone that he worked with or a neighbor. And that was never reported to us. And so it was something that we didn't investigate. So we just don't have any evidence to show that he committed any crimes on campus.
What are you?
So no harassment and stalking of a girl to her car that ended up being some sort of crazy investigation? No Bryan tally that caused him to be on y'all's radar? Nothing like that? See why I wanted to listen to this interview? I'm really glad he came out talking. Thank you for the $2, RV. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. See what I mean? Not only was he not fired on the 20th, whenever this guy started looking into him, which is a day after the story that everyone's been trying to tell and lie about, but not only was the burglary never even reported, the cops have no damn idea where the story even came from, but he also has no proof of there being anything else that happened on campus when it came to him. Like, how do you like have nothing and pretend like you've got everything? Not this guy. He had nothing to do with the whole damn investigation. How do you have all of this nothing and think you've got something? It's unbelievable. It's honestly unbelievable.
Thoughts now as we head towards sentencing, and he's going to be spending, as far as we can tell, the rest of his life in prison behind bars.
I think, I think there's only one unanswered question at this point, and that's motive.
Why?
I think we can look at his interests and his past and come up with some possibilities, but I think that's the one unanswered.
You mean his interest in his past? That would be pretty much the same as yours? And like probably the majority of the students at that college? Okay.
Question. But I'm happy to see that there's no chance of appeal. I suspect that he'll get 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. So I think there is justice for the families and the community.
See, someone in the comments tried to say the other day that I was wrong in saying that they hadn't agreed to like the sentencing, but wasn't that what it was? Like life without parole, like life with no parole, 4 consecutive life sentences type thing. Like I'm pretty positive that that was already agreed to. So maybe they had just missed that, but I could have sworn that that was like already talked about, that this was going to be the thing. This is what was said at the hearing, that instead of there being a DP with a trial that could possibly happen, it was just going to straight up be life with no parole. And it just is what it is. Thank you for the $4.99. I've got something to say. Oh my God, his coworker that had her apartment broken into didn't contact the cops, but called over a friend, just like Dylan. What in the world? Exactly. Funny how that works, huh? Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane? I would never be able to live being like these kinds of people. Like I would have been dead a long time ago being these kinds of people, for real.
And my hope is, and I think this will happen, is that these murders aren't going to define the community of Moscow or Pullman, that the way that the communities came together and supported each other, I think that's what's going to define these communities moving forward.
Okay. So yeah, now you guys see why I wanted to listen to that one, because again, before we move on to these next little 3 interviews that they did here, no verbiage at all to say that on the 20th, whenever he started looking into Bryan, that he was no longer employed there. There was nothing found to be any sort of criminal record or any criminal activity on the campus whatsoever. So I don't know where they're trying to say that they have all this stuff from the college for, but Steve Goncalves really needs to listen to this damn interview, because he keeps going on and going on about the damn school stuff like he did in Banfield. He doesn't say anything about it on any of these ones, but in the Banfield one, he brought it up, and I'm just like, bro, why do you keep bringing that stuff up? He's talked about this damn Bryan tally for a while, and he's never shown it. Like, I'm not in any of their private Discord chats or any of that weird shit that they're doing online, talking to people in the back shadows and shit. Okay, so I don't know if they've like shown it around, but I've never seen it. So I don't even know if it's like a real thing where people are like actually keeping like track on a paper, or is this just a bunch of like rude little idiots who don't like being graded like adults, that just don't like him because he's the autistic weird kid. You know what I mean? Like it's like that kind of thing. I don't know. I just find it all really, really dumb. Really, really stupid. Thank you for the $2, Jules. He keeps saying Bryan is writing a freaking book. And see, that is also like just tells me that he doesn't really listen, or he's putting a lot of stuff onto things that aren't real. Like we know that Bryan Kohberger's sister apparently wants to write a book. Let her. Who cares? Whatever. And then Catherine Ramsland is going to write a book and put some stuff about Bryan in it, or she wants to like talk to him and do a book thing. No one ever said in any of that any money was going to go to Bryan. Like he's just taking stuff that he's hearing bits and pieces of and just like throwing it into this like gumbo pot and just pulling out whatever the frick it does and just coming out and just regurgitating it. Yeah, I don't even think he really quite knows, honestly, half the time what he's saying. I'm going to be so for real. Thank you for the $1.99 super sticker, Danny. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The said the other day that no appeals doesn't exactly mean no appeals, which is why he wasn't going to unseal everything. Yeah, but he's going to start doing it backwards too. It'll be the newest stuff and then the oldest stuff. So it's going to go on for a while. It's going to go on for a long time. Okay. So put a 1 in the chat if you either watched the Banfield interview. Well, it's not really Banfield, but it is Banfield. It's on her own channel. If you watched the interview that he did last night, or if you watched my review video. I just want to know if y'all have seen the video already, because I want y'all to tell me if you can see a difference in the way that Steve behaves whenever he's on these different platforms, because it is definitely different. He's like quiet and sullen the whole way here. A lot of y'all watched it. Okay. Yeah, it's wild. Thank you for the $4.99 LL Jaggers. Oh, serial killers don't usually have motive. Unreal. I mean, and see, what's his face? The Gainesville Ripper didn't have a motive other than he was just a psychopath. There was no connections or anything like that and stuff either. But there was a lot of evidence. And with that one, they ended up like almost putting another guy in jail for it, just because he had like a really bad history, if I'm remembering that story correctly. We went over it here on this channel. But a lot of people that are like sadistic like that, honestly, like it's like a personal internal motive. I think the reason why they're pushing so much for a motive after reading this book especially is because they're really trying to compare him to like every serial out there. Like at first it was BTK just because of who Ramsland worked, did stuff with. Then it was Ted Bundy just because of the sorority thing and like some other things, but like Ted Bundy. There was some family stuff when it comes to Kohberger's family, when it comes to Ted Bundy too. That's real interesting. I don't know if y'all have ever dug into that, but it is kind of interesting. And then Elliot Rodgers. Like they're literally trying to like put him in like all of these categories. So they're allowing all of these people's things to like onto him. You know what I mean? Instead of looking at the facts and what's actually right here for this right here and not all this other bullshit, they're letting it all just muddy everything, make everything cloudy. Make everything cloudy. Thank you for the $4.99 wit. Several lawyers and Hippler said he could get 10 years to life on each charge. I mean, if he's the person who actually did this, I'm a DP human. Everyone who's been here for a while knows that. But it has to be the right person. And they're not proving that it's the right person. And even now, I'm sorry. I've seen and read too many things of people that have pled guilty to things that they did not do. There are cases being fought right now. I did a video of like 31 people that did so. And there's people here in this chat. There's people here in this chat right now that have had this exact same thing happen to them. Obviously not on quadruple homicide type levels, but they've had to plead guilty to things that they didn't do because they were threatened with their children. They were threatened with all these other things with their family, with their jobs, with their livelihoods. It happens all the time. All the cops really care about is getting the damn case closed and having another number on the books. They honestly don't give a shit if it's the right person or not. They just want to make sure everything makes them look good. So I don't trust a lot of things, especially whenever they're all okay with no details, no telling us where you put the weapon, how did you enter the house actually, what really happened, what are the details, where's the clothes you had on, how'd you keep your car from getting literally nothing at all in it, how did you clean everything, how did you make sure that there was nothing in your apartment, where did you actually go? If that would have happened, again, this would be a different show tonight. I just don't understand how we got here with no answers. Oh, no, it couldn't be any, because it couldn't be somebody who was somebody of color. Not with the way that things are right now. If this was somebody who was anybody other than white, this would have went a completely different direction. It had to be a white guy. Trust me, it had to be a white guy. It's just so stupid. It's what they were looking for. It's what they were looking for. Couldn't be one of theirs, but it couldn't be too far this way. Had to be a white guy. Had to be a guy that can make it seem was an incel, that was jealous. But of what? He had no want to be a part of any of that stuff. That's another reason, like, it's really interesting to me that they keep going that way. Because even the biology dude that he was like in, he did the stuff into sales with, he would invite him to parties apparently, and Kohberger wouldn't go. And the girl that he was friends with in high school said that whenever he would go to like little parties and stuff with them before he started like using real heavy and crazy and stuff, that he wouldn't even like really want to be around the people. He'd be like in the outskirts of stuff because he didn't want to be intermingling with all of the crowds. It all just sounds like it's just behavioral. It's just like who he actually is, but it's all being held to like something different. And I get why some people could see it that way. But to me, that just means that you're not paying attention to anything other than what's on your cable box. Because like I said, what we just went through with Jenkins, if we didn't sit here and have gone through all of the inventory reports from his apartment at WSU, we would believe, oh, it was scarce. There was barely anything in it. It looked like he was on the run. But because we know the documents and because we know the evidence, we know better. The mainstream media should have to do what I do. Pull the documents up and read them to the masses for the facts, not just get some stupid headline report where they can't even show the actual document. They put some fake blurry page in the background, or they make a PowerPoint presentation. None of them ever actually show anything. It's really just nasty. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start these. Not for any other reason other than to just see the differences and see what they're saying when it comes to knowledge of certain things, for timeline's sake, when it comes to the plea deal and stuff like that. They're pretty short. And again, they're at 1.15, and there's really not a lot to like stop on. But I find it interesting that all of these media people are repeating the same stupidity about how, oh, now that the gag order's up, now you can say all these things. The family was never under the gag order. The family literally was on this side. Like, this is the gag order. This is everybody that has permission to know shit. This is the family. They were never part of the gag order. That's why they are not allowed to know things. They've been allowed to talk the whole time, obviously. Okay? But they don't know anything. So the way that these mainstream people are coming at them with the questions, I'm like, do y'all listen? Do y'all pay attention at all to anything that's being said to you? Even with Ashley Banfield last night, she kept asking him stuff that he'd already answered. And I'm like, girl, it's just, it shows their ignorance. It really does.
You know, when this first happened, it was...
Okay. If you go to this original video, the people in the comments are mad at her. And she does ask, like, over and over again, like, why do you need to know, basically? Like, why do you need to bother to know what happened to Kaylee? Why isn't this enough, basically, is how she's acting? A lot of people were mad at her in the comments.
Something that really shocked the nation, shocked all of us. The brutality of it was still something that was so stomach-turning. But for you, this has been a life-changing event. Your lives will never be the same. And I'm wondering, Steve, if you could start us off with how you all got the news and how you heard about the news.
It was a normal Sunday. We were watching football, family all together. We got a phone call from a cousin that said they had family that was down in Moscow and that there was cops in an ambulance around our daughter's house.
Now, see, the original story was that Kaylee's niece, Sabrina, not Kaylee's niece, Christy's niece, Sabrina, called her saying that she thought Kaylee had been pew-pewed. I don't know if she said anything about the ambulance being around there, but maybe she did.
While they were sitting there, there was rumors, but basically a vandal alert came out that said there was 4 dead.
Yeah, that's an alert from the school.
Yeah, the college sent out an alert. That's how we found out our daughter was gone.
And the reason why I think this is so important that we're sitting here today, I think most people think the families know all.
And I understand like what they're trying to say with that, but we also have to keep in mind that there were multiple adults in the home at the time, on top of a child. And I say child because she was under the age of 18, but she was also a parent. Therefore, one of those adults could have left that house and driven down there. I don't know how you would just be able to sit in your house for hours on end after getting not only a call from a relative, an actual blood relative, seeing what's going on the news, getting the vandal alerts, not getting anybody to answer the phone, everything that's happening, and you don't drive down there. You don't instantly get in the car. Like there's just no excuse, and I've held on to that this entire time, and I will never let that go. I have the right to be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Your child, something happened. It doesn't matter if you couldn't have like gone down there to make anything better. Why did you just sit around instead of immediately going down there? I will forever have an issue with that, especially after it took like, 2 years for them to finally come out and tell us that they had actually been awake earlier in the morning because Steve was at the urgent care. I don't understand why they chose to like hide that for so long, because it made it look worse. The fact that they hid it. I'll never be okay with that story. That's just what it is.
All the details of the case about everything that has happened, Christy. And that's why it's so important as you sit here today that the gag order has.
Olivia got in the car, big and pregnant, with her kids and her husband, and drove from California to Idaho. But neither one of these parents got in the car and drove down to Moscow to see what the hell was going on with their child. And admittedly, they were calling hospitals and police departments and were being told they couldn't be given any information, and they still just sat there. They didn't even try to get down there.
It's been lifted, because I'm thinking you all know all the details of what happened to your daughter that night, but you were telling me that you actually don't.
No, we don't. We don't know any more.
And see, that woman should know that. She should know that they know nothing. That's what I mean. Like these news people, they don't pay attention to literally anything.
Than pretty much everybody else. So with this gag order being lifted, it will.
I know that a lot of people do. I've seen people do videos and stuff on it, Cricket. I'm not sure myself. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I know that there was a lot of people talking about the time zone difference and like when games started and stuff like that. So I don't know. Some people do have the information. I'm not the one that does.
Allow us to know more of what happened to our daughter.
Steve, why do you want to know the details? Some people would say the fact that he's going to plead guilty, that he will be in prison for the rest of his life, that he will never be released. You won't have to go through the trial and hear some of the most gruesome things that you've ever heard. Why do you want to hear the details?
I think by hiding the truth, we're protecting our killers. We have to show the ugliness of what this person did. We're writing our victims' impact statements, and we don't even know what the impact is because they've hid the impact from all.
The impact is your daughter's dead, Steve. What do you mean? See, it makes this so hard. He makes this so hard. I can see why you want all the details. I'm the same way. But to sit there and say that you don't know the impact because you don't know the exact number of times that she was actually like punctured with something. I don't really know how to say that in a way that YouTube doesn't freak out on me. To say that you don't, because you don't know the exact number of wounds, that you don't know the impact. The impact is she's not here. That's the impact. So that's not going to work. You got to straighten up your argument. But it's also like too late. This shit's happening next week. I keep looking over there, but I never even took the June thingy down, and I'm still looking at June over there. This is happening in a week. Like, I get it, but come on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want gruesome crime scene photos or blood or gore or anything like that, but I need to know the facts of what, how many times was my daughter stabbed? Was she choked?
And they
what
deserve
happened?
to know
and
all
that
of that.
should be part of our victim's statement. And they're robbing us, and they're protecting the killer still. To this day, they're still protecting a guy. And
admitted to killing her.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to us.
Tell me why you want to know that. Why you want to know.
See how she's like asking him again? She just asked that question. He just answered it. Like in 25 different ways. He answered the damn question. And here her dumbass goes again. Why do you want to know that? So the past 3 minutes of him talking and Christy making statements, did you just like black out? That's why people in the comments were going off on her. I'm like, damn, you don't even listen.
Those specific details. It's painful for me to just hear it,
That's
I
you,
want people to
big
understand
old baby.
that we have to hold people to a different standard when they end life. When you end life, you can't. I want school shootings to stop. I want these mass shootings to stop. And I think you can't do that by just brushing it under the table, putting a gag.
See, and this is where I also have a problem with Steve, is that he's constantly bringing up something that doesn't have anything to do with this, and he goes on a tangent this other direction, and it never stays focused on this. We all want the same thing, Steve, but that has nothing to do with the question at hand or this case. And I know the only reason why he's even bringing it up is because there was a situation like that, and apparently that guy had like searched up a lot of stuff about Bryan Kohberger, or had even like posted stuff on social media about Bryan Kohberger. I don't remember the exact one, but that's what happened. But I just don't understand why he keeps just like completely going over here instead of staying on track. Like he's done this long enough to where, like, he did 3 interviews in a row this morning. Okay, these are all from today. And honestly, there's probably some that I missed. So as much as he's been like out here repeating this, he still just goes all over the place, and it makes it hard to follow. And I don't know if he does it on purpose so that we don't catch certain things that he's saying or not saying, or if this is just as discombobulated as he really is. what the problem I have is that he's got people apparently all around him not putting their hand on his shoulder and being like, hold on, bro. We need to take a break. That lawyer's useless.
Order wrapping it up in a bow and say, he pleaded guilty. It's all done. Let's just move on. I think we can do better than that.
Lifting the gag order, Shannon, you say is important too. Why? Because, you know, they know some of the details.
Why? The way that she says it makes it sound like it doesn't need to be. Why does it need to be? That's how I get it from her.
But I'm surprised to hear they don't know all the details.
Well, it's a couple of things. You obviously the discovery in the case, right? We now could have access to the discovery in the case. We already had a meeting with the prosecutor's office in this case and asked them for a copy of the discovery.
And giving you discovery would do what?
Police reports, you know, the university, or it's Idaho State Police, Moscow Police Department, the FBI, all have investigative reports, the investigation that was done, photographs, pictures, all of those things that are part of the discovery gives us an opportunity to find some answers that they don't have right now. And then you also have the court, all the filings with the court. That can be unsealed. We obviously know that most of that stuff will be redacted to protect the information of those privileged, which it should. But all of that information is very important.
But the problem that I'm going to have is if they sit here and redact full-ass truths about things when it comes to the roommate's timeline, what could have possibly actually happened when it comes to putting all of those dots together with the phone communications, the phone calls, the text messages, the actual movements, because these were all smart devices. They can tell whenever they're going up and down the stairs, what floor they're on, all the things. If all of those little bitty details that paint the damn picture are redacted, and then like certain pieces of what actually happened are redacted, I can only sit here and not like throw an actual fit about not getting all of the actual information if the families are at least given the actual information. Because I have a feeling that they're really just going to try to like black box the majority of what's going to come out. I don't trust this process at all. You know, they're like, after all this crazy stuff with like the Epstein files, now they're discussing releasing like the grand jury transcripts. So we'll see, because I'm not happy about that damn situation either.
It's important that the prosecution keeps their promise to the victim's family and gives them a copy of that discovery. But because if you have to go through the normal course, you do public records requests through all the agencies, and it could take years to get all that information.
See, okay. In one of the other interviews on here, he makes it sound as if it was something that they want, but that they were basically told that they're going to have to file for information. That's how it was like, well, at least that's how Steve said it whenever he was on Banfield. But see, now Shannon Gray is basically stating that they already met with the prosecutor, and the prosecutor's office already promised the Goncalveses the discovery. So Steve's out here basically lying and saying that they're not going to have a choice but to file FOIAs while there's already been a promise made by the prosecutor's office. Is that what I'm getting here? That's what it sounds like. Let me go back a second, make sure I heard him right.
Moscow Police Department, the FBI, all have investigative reports.
And that we have to hold people to a different standard when they end life. When you end life, you can't. I want school shootings to stop. I want these mass shootings to stop. And I think
Surprised to hear they don't know all the details.
Well, it's a couple of things. You obviously the discovery in the case, right? We now could have access to the discovery in the case. We already had a meeting with the prosecutor's office.
So they had a meeting
and asked them for a copy of the discovery.
They asked
giving you a discovery would do what?
Police reports, you know, the university, or it's Idaho State Police, Moscow Police Department, the FBI, all have investigative reports, the investigation that was done, photographs, pictures, all of those things that are part of the discovery gives us an opportunity to find some answers that they don't have right now. And then you also have the court, all the filings with the court. That can be unsealed. We obviously know that most of that stuff will be redacted to protect the information of those privileged, which it should. But all of that information is very important, and it's important that the prosecution keeps their promise to the victim's family and gives them a copy of that discovery.
So Steve is out here lying. Steve is out here lying at this point in time, making it sound as if the families don't have a choice but to file all the FOIAs, just like we do. Shannon just said they've already met with the prosecutor's office, and the prosecutor's office has promised the families a copy of the discovery. So Steve's lying at this point in time, because this literally just happened They don't have it. So instead of just being like, they promised it to us and we just have to wait a little while, he wants to come on here and pretend like everything's being withheld for real. See, this is what happens whenever they go on all these. This is why I wanted to watch all these interviews, because you got to catch everything. Everything. Thank you for the 199 wit. His lawyer is apparently a joke from the book. No joke. Like, for real, no joke. He hasn't helped them through like really anything at all, because Steve comes out here and makes a fool out of himself constantly. And I could have sworn that that's like, the lawyer is supposed to stop you from making an ass out of yourself. So I guess maybe Steve doesn't like run anything by him whenever he goes to like Drunk Turkey or Chris McDonough or what's her face's other little channel. Well, not little. She's got a lot of people over there, but her other channel. I'd love to know how much they're paying this guy. Oh, and wait until y'all hear, you know what? I'm just going to let it play. I'm just going to let it play whenever it comes up. You'll know whenever. You'll know it.
But because if you have to go through the normal course, you do public records requests through all the agencies, and it could take years to get all that information.
Christy and Steve, were you surprised when he actually finally did plead guilty? Because it's been my understanding you thought he was guilty for a long time. When you actually heard that when you actually heard him say the words, did that surprise you to hear him admit to it?
No, when you plead guilty to save your life,
Mm-hmm.
a simple yes, yes, yes. Get up and do it once. Go sit in front of the courtroom and say yes. I think it was 41 times. Guilty 5 times, something like that. But I mean, if you're going to save your life,
I think
not be on death row.
He wants control. He wants to be able to have that final say of how this is going to end. And that's,
I mean, honestly, a lot of people think that the main reason why the defense even went this way is because of all of the tainting and everything that's already happened. Even though we heard it, okay, we all listened to Bill Thompson stand up during this plea hearing and say that during all of the over 24 pings that they have of his phone utilizing a tower that also services King Road, there's so many residents in that area, and it's such a vast space that they cannot actually put him at King Road any of those times. But that's basically been the story for how long now, guys? How long has Cy been a part of this case? For the entire time. We've known that for the entire time to an extent. And even with all of this other stuff that is out there, look at the majority consensus. She's not wrong. He pled guilty to save his life because he probably figured, with the way that no one seemed to really be paying attention to facts. Look what happened to Richard Allen. I think those transcripts just came out too. People have been going crazy reading them. Wild.
part of the reason why we would have asked for them to make some negotiations and, made him prove, where the weapon was or the kill kit, all these details, because.
And see, I agree with what he just said and the word that he said, prove. Because if you're, again, the defense is the one who came up with this plea deal. They're the ones who went to the prosecutor with it. The prosecution should have been like, okay, if you're guilty, prove you're guilty, since this is the way that you want to do this. I know the burden is normally on the state, but when now the things get flipped and now the person being accused is like, yeah, bro, it was me. Prove it was you. Tell me where the knife is. Prove it was you. Where'd you put the clothes? Tell me something to prove it. Because whenever people come in and confess to things, for the majority, they try to disprove their own admission. Cops do. Look at John Benet Ramsey's case. A bunch of people, any case really, there's weirdos out there that even if they didn't do anything wrong, they'll admit to all these things. I don't know whether it was a YouTube video or a documentary. There was a guy who had basically admitted to all of these freaking SKs because he had actually done maybe 1 or 2, but he basically lied to the police and would say, yeah, I know where the bodies and stuff are, and actually get them to where the locations of some of the bodies were. But it's because he would play the game. He would sit there and say that he knew something about whatever, or they would bring him in to ask him if he knew something about a certain case, and he would get information while they were asking him about what was going on. He would take the information that they were trying to feed him, and then he would be, it's the same way that people are coaxed into confessions, except he was trying to fish the information actually out of the police. And then he would go and have people do other research for where things possibly are. And a lot of times he like actually led the cops to the bodies. Not every time, but lots of times he did. And then he had to, eventually he came out and was like, yeah, it wasn't me. Like this one and this one and this one and this one and this one, that wasn't me. I lied the whole time. But at one point he was like, he had like the highest ranking amount of cases. I got to find that documentary. I got to find it.
Those are the details that the conspiracy theorists would have to be like,
that
okay,
part
it's
too.
over, it's done.
Over 500 people confessed to taking out the Black Dahlia. The Black Dahlia is a wild story. Holy crap. That one's wild.
In prison with no chance of parole is still not good enough for you. Some families say, listen, I'm just glad to know that he's not going to get out, that he can't do this to anyone else again. That's not good enough for you because you think about the type of life he would lead in prison, Steve?
Yeah, he's dedicated his life. He has a master's degree in criminology. He knows that he can write legal papers for other prisoners and work favors. He can still have an influence.
Isn't that the same thing that BTK is doing? Could have sworn that's what I heard. So he's basically just like assuming that all of these things are going to happen just because he's heard other people are doing the exact same thing. But for those of you who heard the other interview, he literally sat there and made it sound as if they have created a job specifically for Bryan Kohberger. That's why they did this plea deal, because they're basically going to hire him for something. He said this. And now that his lawyer and his wife are sitting next to him, he's real reserved about what he says, if you haven't noticed.
This man killed my daughter. I want him to have no influence in the world anymore. Mm-hmm. And he's going to still be able to do interviews. He's still going to be able to
help fellow inmates, you know, with.
And the interview thing, he thinks for some reason that the sister and Ramsland are like, what if he tells her no? What if he, for one, I never heard the sister was even going to go interview him. As far as I understood, this was like the sister that didn't like him and he stole the phone from. I could be wrong on that, but that's how I like interpreted it. So if she just wants to write a book about her own experiences being the Kohberger sister, then why does she have to talk to him at all? It's just a lot of made up stuff. I think that he has like just built up in his mind, and it's just like stacking on to everything else when it's not real, like Emily's dream. Yeah.
Get them prescriptions. All these type of things will give him a better and more rewarding life inside, I call adult care. Mm-hmm. Prison is just like adult care. So it's my daughter deserved better than that.
Yeah. What is it like for you? I know you've been in the courtroom. What is it like for you to sit and see him? I often wonder, as I've seen you on TV from the very beginning, Steve, you've been very outspoken. And every time I see you, I wonder how he's getting through it. What is it like for you to sit and see him?
That part too.
It's disgusting. You know, I hate being in that courtroom. I hate people protecting evil, and they protect evil in there. And that's very hard for a father to deal with. I don't want anyone to have to go through that. But yeah, I mean.
Do you guys feel he's been remorseful?
No, not at all.
He's shown zero remorse. Mm-hmm. Not one, but he's like a robot, a killing robot. Mm-hmm. And
would that be helpful?
A killing robot? It's hard to show remorse for something if you're not the one who did it. So I can say that because that's a fact. Okay. That statement in itself is a fact. It's hard to show remorse for something that you actually didn't do. But on top of that, I do feel like even if Kohberger somehow actually was guilty, his autism and everything else would probably make him that monotone regardless of the situation. But I can see how that side of the camp would interpret it that way, especially since they're trying to act as if they don't believe the autism stuff at all. But in the book, when it talks about Bryan's like childhood, autism was like the first diagnosis that came up. I wish they would have put more of like a timeline though.
Helpful to you if he showed remorse?
I think it would. I think it would be because, you know, maybe he could go in there and say, I went in there for one person, I lusted, I had a moment, I was drunk or I was on drugs, and it just went crazy. That would make.
If that was the case and that's what was said, that would make perfect sense. He was hyped up on some crazy ish and went in there with like one purpose, and then everything just went crazy. But that's not the story. That doesn't even make any sense for the story because they can't find any connections between him and anyone else. They can't prove that he was ever over there. And there's no way that unless you actually had knowledge of the layout of that weird ass freaking house, that you would be able to maneuver yourself the way that you maneuvered yourself. And I still don't see how things could be happening on 2 different floors at the exact same time and it be one person, because that's the timeline that they're giving us. And the fact that they keep lying to us about everything to do with Dylan, why are we supposed to even like try to believe the timeline that they're trying to tell us when everything about Dylan keeps changing? And the sad and stupid and screwed up part is that neither one, her or Bethany, have ever come out to actually speak. Do these people even exist, or are they just like computer images and stuff that we've been told to exist? Because where are they? We've never seen them at a memorial. We've never seen pictures of them at the house. We've never seen like before, I mean, like after this, of them like being around any of this or any of those people after the fact. We haven't heard a word. That's the weirdest part of this entire thing, is like Dylan and Bethany don't even exist. It's very crazy.
Make more sense.
We still, as a public, we still don't know the motive. Do you all know the motive?
No.
No. And I don't think they want
Yeah,
anyone
see,
to
she
know the
doesn't
motive.
listen.
I don't think they want anyone to know when he first came on their radar. I've heard different dates on that. That's accountability that they're getting out of with the gag.
You've heard different dates on that, but you just went on Banfield and made it sound as if you knew definitively that it was the 19th that all this crazy stuff happened.
Order and sealing things.
Do
I
you,
want full accountability.
do you think they know the motive, Shannon, with all the information that they have?
I don't think they
Prosecutors
do.
and officials, yeah.
I mean, I think they're guessing. I think
Yeah.
it's, we'll get a copy of that discovery. We'll have a chance to make our own opinions on it. But I think motive was always an issue. They didn't know what the motive was, right? They knew they had a defendant that was.
Yeah, we hear different things.
Right.
So I was curious. But I can't get over your daughter, Kaylee. Every time I see her picture, it does make me smile. You see the video of her. She was so full of life. And she and Maddie, there you are, Steve. She and Maddie seem to have been best friends for a very long time. How do you all get through this? How do you process it? How do you keep her memory alive? It's nice to see you smile when you talk about her, but I'm wondering, I know it's very difficult.
For me, I focus on the other babies. I focus on
How
right
many
now.
children do you have?
We have 5. Kaylee was the middle.
Through all of this. And yeah, they have 5 together, but there's not just 5 children. Through all of this, I think the most disappointing part is that through everything and through losing Kaylee, and as hard as it had to have been. What about Samantha? I haven't talked to her in forever, but I still always just go back to that because I see like the emotional disturbance in that woman. And I know that the biggest part of it is because of the broken ass relationship that she had with this man right here on the damn screen. And the way that he talks to her about it is really just gross. And now, even almost 3 years later, after everything, she still has to come out and listen to them say that constantly about how she just doesn't exist, basically. And that's another reason why I have the opinion that I have. It's not just all about what Ashley Banfield says or Brian Inton. It's about everything else.
5. And, we all talk about her all the time, every day. There's not a day that,
Is that helpful?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And we constantly see new pictures, and, we have friends that will send me pictures or text me pictures or send them to us. And so, seeing new pictures are always, the light of our day. But, videos have gotten really hard for me to watch. I used to be able to watch them, but videos and hearing her voice and like seeing her, laughing or whatnot.
I'll bet it comes in waves for you, Steve.
Yeah, I focus a lot on the kids. Like yesterday, we brought one of our kids out to New York with us. And it was on her bucket list.
Yeah.
She's about to go to college. So we were just really love being around her. And she's doing pranks and she's just reminding us of Kaylee all over again. And that's what I try to focus on.
And I'll let you go with this because I have seen you from the very beginning. What would be the most helpful to you from people who are watching you and feeling for you and sympathizing? What would be the most helpful for you?
I would say, I hate to say it, but if any other family has to go through something like this, get a lawyer, fight as much as you can, honor your child to the very end, do everything you can, let the world know that we got to get better. We got to stop doing these killings. We got to treat people better. This is no way to do it.
Okay, now we're on to the next one. I put these in order from the oldest to the newest one. Now, this one right here, I think is the one, the one I'm about to play is, I think, the one that I actually watched first. Maybe I have them in the wrong order. I feel like I had them in the right order. Anyway, there's a third one after this from Good Morning America, but they posted it at 5 o'clock Central Time. I'm like, this is not in the morning. But just wait till you hear about how many hours Steve was able to put aside for trial, because wasn't the biggest thing, and I know they're giving the money back, but that's not the point. Isn't the biggest thing was that all these people were going to have to miss work and not be able to pay bills because they were going to have to be in Boise for X amount of time. He had the vacation time, turns out, and he says how many hours he put aside for said trial. So apparently them needing the money because he wasn't going to be able to like pay bills that whole time was not true. Neither here nor there.
Thank you both for being here this morning. Let me just start with both of you. I know it's been thank you 2.5 years now. It's long 2.5 years. The last few weeks especially, I would imagine, have been fairly difficult. How are both of you holding up as we sit here right now?
Tired, exhausted. At this point, ready just to move on, just to get this past us.
Trying to catch up a little bit too. We expect.
Watch Steve a lot here. I'm not trying to say that one of them feels something stronger than the other one, because that's not the reason for what I'm about to say. But in this video specifically, you can really see what's going on inside of Steve. And it's sad. Like, it really is. Like, he's, I think, past the point of being angry, and he's turning into something else. And it's just like the way that his eyes are constantly like doing certain things. Like, it's honestly getting like kind of worrying seeing this like sort of decline.
To go to trial this summer, and I had 250 hours set aside, had my schedule.
250 hours set aside. That means 250 hours of vacation pay. That's what that means in that world. So he was going to be able to cover stuff. They came out again and tried to like put this sad story out there that was already tragic and didn't need any extra, the same way that he just did with the whole, oh, we're not going to get any information from the prosecution. And then, turns out they actually had a whole meeting and there's been a whole promise made that they're going to get a whole copy of the discovery from literally like everyone. Elaborate lies, no matter how white or little people might think they might be, are not cute.
Had things going. So it was a radical change for us. So now we're just trying to wrap our head around this new development, and we're still family. Still got to take care of ourselves. So we're moving on.
You've had a lot to wrap your head around for the past couple of weeks, and sort of whiplash, if you will, to have Bryan Kohberger in court that day, admitting his guilt, admitting in open court everything he did. What was that like, even if you weren't in the actual courtroom for it? What was that like to hear him actually say he's guilty?
It was very surreal. It was very emotional to hear it. Something that, I don't think that we were ever really prepared to hear or think that we would hear.
Yeah. It was left.
Yeah, it was hard. It was definitely hard. I wish that, he would have had to say maybe their names other than just simple yeses and nos.
Mm-hmm. We all agree with that.
But
see that right there? I left that as the last clip whenever I put that hearing up. It's just so strange to me how like she can touch him. Like, if he really confessed to all these horrible ass things, how could you then turn around and touch him? That's why it makes it really hard to believe she's touching him. Like, I understand being civil, still sitting there, but that's a comfort. That's a comfort. Why would you be needing to comfort him if he really was the guilty person? And honestly, the look on his face right here, he looks scared shitless. It's just an interesting photo for sure.
I think it shows a little bit more accountability and taking, owning up to what he did, to have to say the victims' names, our daughter's name, not just yes. I just feel like that was a really easy way to admit his guilt.
Yeah, I agree. We want to see some sternness when you see 4 lives lost. He wasn't even asked to stand. It's like, those are the type of things that we want to send a message. If you come after kids, people are going to put their foot down and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that those kids are, whoever did that is held to the accountability, the highest that there is. But, it was quiet.
you've been somewhat critical of the state and how all of this was handled from the very beginning.
Lots of us
and as
have.
I understand it, you also you wanted to go to trial. You did not want to see this plea deal come to fruition. Why?
We've seen all the rumors.
So I mentioned the other day that I wondered if maybe Steve, like I know that he wants to know everything, right? But I mean, we do know that eventually he's going to know stuff. But I've wondered if maybe the reason why he really wanted this to go to a jury is because I feel like he has a lot of doubts in his mind. People can say whatever the frick they want to. I don't even care. I feel like the way that he says certain things about, we need to make sure that he's really the one. We need to make sure that he just did this by himself. And even in the Amazon series, Steve Jr., the boy, he's even like, we got to make sure this is the right person. So it's not like it's not been something that they question. We know that they've been questioning it. But the fact that there was like such this horrible amount of time where all of these literal lies were said. And I mean, the biggest one is the fact that Steve is an IT man, okay? An IT man. And he came out here for 2 years and said that he had proof that Bryan Kohberger's devices touched the Wi-Fi at King Road. And then he had to come out on Drunk Turkey and be like, yeah, that was false. That wasn't true. You're Mr. IT. You would have known if that was true or not. So the fact that you're coming out here and saying it now that you know that all this stuff's about to come out and it's going to show that that's not true, that tells me that you lied intentionally several times and also tried to push it to where all these other channels, Forensic Frenzy and Gray Hughes and Drunk Turkey and JLR, who finally blocked me, by the way. Finally, we're going to get to that at the end of the video. But he was pushing this to all these people. And honestly, I've had conversations with at least two people that would just like comment on the Facebook page, but didn't have a YouTube channel. They were not content creators. But when it came to like the Garrett report and stuff like that, was it called the Garrett report? Y'all know what I'm talking about. That stupid thing that happened in the very beginning of the case. He was going around and like trying to send that to like anybody who would take it. Like even people, again, who were not content creators, they just had people that followed them on Facebook and were constantly commenting on the page. He was just trying to push it out as much as possible. You would have the brains to know better than a lot of this stuff. So again, it is very intentional whenever somebody that has the knowledge comes out and says a bunch of stuff that seems like on point for his skill set, but then has to come out and be like, oh yeah, that wasn't true. That's why like everything he says is just so questionable.
All the things that are out there, a gag order just kind of turned it into just a big, huge mess of conspiracy. So we don't want to live that for the next 10, 15 years. So if our community came together and they were the ones that said he was guilty, then it's not us saying it or one person saying it. It's everyone saying that. So
see, that's what I mean. Like he wants to like make sure that maybe that he's not crazy, that they agree, that the majority of all these people agree with him. More opinions, because it's not just a second or a third opinion, it's however many people are on the jury. So maybe he just felt like the more people that looked at everything, the answer that came would have more validation behind it. I've kind of wondered that for a while.
There's power in that. I believe in the court system. I believe in our juries. And that's what we're prepared to do.
Christy, do you worry there are questions you will never get answered as a result of this deal? Because he doesn't have to say exactly what his motive is. He doesn't have to say where the murder weapon is.
I think it's worse than that. I think we're going to find out secrets through his sick, twisted mind.
Why?
He's going to write about it. He's going to have interviews, exclusive interviews with his family members or certain people. And that's how we're going to hear about it.
And to be fair.
And there's no proof of any of that. See, he's going around to all of these and saying that stuff. Kohberger has stood silent this entire time. There was a stupid rumor that had to be stomped out like super quick because some LTL fake media, Joseph Morris looking dude, okay, came out and tried to say that, oh, this person said that there's all this proof from a verified source that Kohberger is going to come out and do an interview, but it was going to be like in November or some weird shit like that. The attorney for the family had to come out and be like, no, bro, no, none of that's true. So is he taking like the false news, the fake news, and spreading it around like that because he doesn't see the retraction in the proof? Because where has it ever been said that Bryan was going to write a book about anything? Like, if the state doesn't talk to him and he's not talking to Kohberger, then how would he know anything about a book anyway? See, it's just a bunch of unnecessary extra. It's not necessary. It's too much. It's too much trash. It's too much trash.
That could happen because in this particular plea deal, there's nothing that forbids that.
Exactly.
What have you been told that we don't know surrounding what happened that night?
Nothing.
We asked them, can you just tell us the last moments of our daughter so when we have our victims' statements, we can be as accurate as possible. We don't want any lies in those statements. We want pure, and they wouldn't even give us the facts of what happened.
Just some details too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree, they deserve to know, like, all of that. It's not fair.
That would be hard to know, but we want to know it. We want to know.
I don't want to hear from the media. I'd rather hear it from, the investigators.
I read recently that the coroner did give you some more detail.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What did the coroner say?
And see, this is another thing that just proves these MSM people, they just don't pay attention. They would have known from everything that Steve has said on all these other channels that this conversation with Mabbitt would have happened in the very beginning. This is not new information. This is stuff that he has already said months and months and months and months ago that he wanted to get further validation from them before he misspoke about anything. Well, now he's out here saying a bunch of crazy stuff. And then when he goes into explaining it, it's nothing like what the hell he actually just tried to insinuate that it was. And then he goes and he blames it on the fact that, oh, well, they never validated anything. Well, then why are you talking? So they would know how old this conversation was, like we do, if they paid attention. They think this is
Coroner
new.
said that kind of gave us a breakdown of the wounds and the ways that she had passed away. She'd definitely been stabbed multiple times, and they kind of described it as a drowning that can occur. But she did say gagging. There was some gagging, and she was damn. He struck her in the face, and
she had a broken nose. She had subdural hematomas. She had asphyxial injuries. She had some defense wounds on her arms.
Yeah.
And stabbed many, many times. But how many we don't know.
And that should be part of.
And that's why they said that her facial injuries alone would have taken her life without the knife situation. So it sounds like she was beaten so bad in the face that she drowned in her own blood. That's horrible.
The victim's impact statement, and we shouldn't be robbed of that. We should know all those details, and we don't want to say something that isn't accurate. Like we've heard the amount of times that she was stabbed, but we don't know from the actual fact finders.
Shannon, bring you in here. These parents have had to live a literal nightmare for almost 3 years now. Are there other documents that you want to see be made public that could provide them with some of the answers?
Well, we had a meeting with the prosecutors already asking about a full disclosure of all the discovery in the case. If you go through the normal course, you'd be public disclosures, public records requests for the next 2 to 3 years to try to get everything. So we've asked about that ahead of time because we want a full copy of the discovery because we don't have any answers. They don't have any answers. And allows us to go through. They can redact whatever they need to redact.
Let me pause this real quick. My son forgot to close his door before he went back to his video game. Give me a second.
But then bring that in and it's the Idaho State Police, it's the FBI, it's the Moscow Police Department that we would all request. And so they promised us that, and we're hoping that they keep their promise.
Steve, Christy, what do you want?
So it's incoming.
To remember about your little girl.
And I would be totally fine with them getting, all of the families getting all of the information, and then we still got to wait a little while. It's going to be difficult to know what's true whenever Steve comes out here and starts doing this all over again, because we're going to have to probably wait. But I would prefer the families get this information first, and then they work on the public redactions. If they redact stuff for the families, that's just absolute bullshit. But I know that it happens because whenever my uncle was murdered and we went to go get the autopsy report and the police report, they had taken black Sharpie and blacked out a whole bunch of shit. This was a long time ago, but yeah.
Kaylee was just so fun. She was extremely smart. She had a beautiful smile. an amazing laugh. Everything. I mean, everything about Kaylee was amazing. Honestly, she just
Very dedicated, hard worker. She's
Yeah.
going to graduate with her degree a year early.
Yeah.
So she was going to light the world on fire. And
She
we're
was really
missing her, you
motivated.
know, we're
She seemed
missing
like
her.
she wanted to
yeah,
actually
every
get
day,
going.
everything about her, everything. If I could hear her laugh, hear her voice, see her smile.
Can't imagine it. Just can't imagine it. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for keeping her memory alive.
See, look at Steve. Like he's broken.
And best of luck. I know the sentencing hearing is next week. So
Yes.
Okay. So this is the one that posted like around 5 o'clock my time, or at least that's what it showed on YouTube. It's a little bit shorter. I don't remember them saying anything else, but we're going to run through it. And then there's Olivia. I saw right before I went live, I went and saw that Brian Enton is going to be posting a like over 1 hour long conversation that he had with Olivia. And he posted like a 3-minute or so clip on Twitter. So we're going to watch that. And there's like a couple other things. I put this little like video together so that I didn't like lose track about what I wanted to talk about.
Christy, I'd like to start with you first, because as we noted there, the lifting of this gag order now means that more evidence documents can be revealed to the public. People who are involved in the case, investigators can speak openly. What more do you hope to learn in the days and weeks ahead?
Just details surrounding what happened to Kaylee. We don't really have that. So that's, and just how the investigation unfolded and how they found out who the suspect was and leading up to the arrest, just that information on really, we just want to know about Kaylee.
And see, that's what was all going to come out at trial. Like they were going to have to come out and actually give their storyline for all of that stuff. And instead, I feel like I have one of my hairs on my nose. Everything's itchy. But instead, we just got like a bunch of stuff that was from the PCA and them admitting that they can't actually put him there during the phone pings. They have no evidence that he was directly in contact with 1122 King Road. I just don't know how you hear all that stuff and don't instantly be like, I'm sorry? What are we doing?
And we've gone all this time not knowing the details, and we really want those details.
And Steve, as we mentioned, Kohberger pleaded guilty. He's expected to spend the rest of his life behind bars. But you oppose this plea deal. Why is that?
Death penalty is the ultimate in providing justice for my daughter. And I don't know what kind of father wouldn't want the most for their child. So I didn't want shortcuts. And, death in prison is 23 hours of isolation, and you don't have the influence that you do when you're in general pop and when you're going around writing papers or doing certain things.
See, he's literally parroting the exact same made up stuff in his head. Nothing that he is saying is something that is a fact or anything that's been a conversation. This is stuff that he's making up because they mentioned this in the very beginning. Right after he was arrested, they talked about how they didn't want him being like BTK and like all these other things, like by name. So they took the fact that he was with Catherine Ramsland, looked into her history, and then was like, oh, so he's just going to immolate everything that happened here. And they've basically just created that in their own minds. Well, he has. And now he's just coming out and like repeating it over and over and over again, like it's a fact, and it's not a fact. He's doing exactly what mainstream media does to lie to people all day long. Shannon really does suck.
Get influence. I don't want this guy writing about what he did to our kids. And I don't want him flexing in there and getting away with things.
You mentioned the death penalty as part of this. He avoids that with this plea deal. But could it have been done differently? Let's say, for example, he talked about the motive, why he committed these murders, where the murder weapon is. If that information were revealed as part of this plea deal, would you have felt differently?
100%. I mean, we spent 3 years. There's a right way to end this. There's a right way to do this, and not a shortcut. And for me to pretend like there was shortcuts weren't taken, it's not part of me.
Yeah, because remember when he was talking to, I think it was Drunk Turkey. Was it Drunk Turkey right before the Dateline? It was either Drunk Turkey or Ashley Banfield. I don't remember him having this conversation with Chris McDonough. But something about a possible plea deal was asked, and he was like adamant that there was no way in hell that Xana was going to plea. Like he was adamant that was not going to happen. And honestly, no one really, I didn't think it was going to happen. I really thought Xana was going to try to go out with like a bang. But then apparently this is like his pattern, is just to like plea out.
From a legal perspective, do you see this as a shortcut that the prosecution moved through? I mean, we know that some of the families ultimately did support this plea agreement.
Well, ultimately, the family thought that, they had a strong case, right? They had a case that they could prove and they could get the death penalty in this case. And like Steve said,
there's nothing wrong with talking. There's a problem when they're lying. People really need to learn the difference. There's a huge difference. They could be out here talking all day long, and I would have nothing to say if it was factual. But I already went over several times that he has lied. I don't have to explain it anymore. They can talk all they want to. No one's saying that they can't. But just because you're grieving doesn't mean that you get a pass at being a liar. You know how many people would get passes for some shitty ass shit that they did just because they were sad about something? Let's not play that game.
The difference between doing a life sentence, being in general population, having TV, having all access to the things that he wants to do, versus a death penalty sentence, which you're incarcerated 23 hours a day, 1 hour you're out. They knew that they were never going to see him die. But his life in prison would have been a lot different. And so not finding out any
answers, they knew they were
it,
never going to see him executed. So see, and that's just like a whole nother thing too, because Idaho used this case as like their stepping stool for the firing squad stuff. Like they spent over $1 million just to like renovate stuff. It was like $900,000 for the room itself, but then they also had to like do all of the voting and pay for all this other stuff on top of the $900,000 that it took to pew somebody. Like, why does it need a renovation? Why do we need a special? It's just odd, like the whole thing. And then for them to just be like, yeah, we're not going to do this after they literally use that as like as a tool. This case, its popularity as a tool for the firing squad, to the point that the Goncalveses wore the shirts for the law that they were trying to pass. So to then sit there and be like, they knew they were never going to actually watch it happen, it says a lot about the way that they probably know that the rules for that were going to end up going. So it was like a stupid, useless, redundant fight the whole time then. Insane.
Not finding out, getting any information about the case. That's why it's important now that the discovery, the family gets a copy of the discovery on the case. That's one of the things that we've done. We had a conversation with the prosecutors already. We've asked for a copy of that discovery. They're going to provide it to us. We hope they keep their promise, because if they don't,
that part, I'm glad that they're out here saying this part publicly, because I'm pretty sure that there's proof of this. He seems like the type, or at least I hope that somebody in their camp is the type, that after a meeting, there's like a follow-up email to confirm that everything in the meeting was understood. You know what I mean? So it's good that Shannon's actually coming out here and being like, yeah, they made a promise that they were going to give us everything, because now everyone's eyes is on Moscow. Everyone's eyes is like, okay, when are they going to get their stuff? You made a promise. So where is it at? I'm really glad that they're announcing that.
With public records requests for the next 2 or 3 years with the city of Moscow, Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, FBI. So we're hoping we get that discovery, we get some of the answers that they want, and find out what went on.
You mentioned a conversation with the prosecutors. Have you had some of these conversations behind the scene in a way in which you learned more about Kaylee's final moments, perhaps how she fought for her life? What more have they been able to tell you that has not been revealed through the court proceedings so far?
Nothing.
We learned more in books, like the U of I book. U of I knew more about our children than we did. Now Mabbott,
the Scott Green's book. I don't want to read it. I know it's only like the last chapter or so. But if like that's what he means, that was like really early on and was written before the crime even happened. And then like that chapter was like squished in there.
Give us some details, and thankfully she did that. But we'd have to confirm those, because those details were given with an explanation that she's not an investigator. So she was like, this is how she passed away, but she didn't give us all the details, and we want to hold them accountable.
Okay, but if you're like the person who determines all of those things, you don't need to be an investigator to answer that question. Maybe he just misconstrued what she said, or maybe she did say that for some weird ass reason. But I mean, honestly, she should have just been more like, well, we have to wait for the autopsy results before I can even really answer that question. But it wouldn't have anything to do with being an investigator or not, because that's a medical thing.
Well, for all those details.
Sentencing is expected next week. You both mentioned to me earlier that you plan to be there.
Yes.
What else do you hope to hear during that time? What do you expect?
Well, we're not really expecting much, as we already know what the judge is sentencing him to. So that's not going to be anything new. So we're just going to give our victims.
Do you want to hear? Do you hope to hear more from Kohberger himself?
I haven't been expecting that. I don't expect to hear him say anything.
I don't even think they'll ask him. That's what we asked them, was to, if he's going to make an agreement, plea deal, then make sure that he says he did it solely and gives information that,
Details,
if the world's saying, they'd be like, he's guilty. He knew exactly where the kill kit was. He knew exactly where the knife was. And that would just end all the rumors and we could just move on.
Before we go, I know that both of you have been incredible advocates for your daughter. How do you want everyone to remember Kaylee?
Just remember Kaylee as, the light that she was. She was funny. She was smart. She loved having a good time with her friends. She loved her family. She loved taking her dog out, just the happy person that she was. She was,
Speaking of Murphy, did y'all know that he just kind of ran around and did whatever he wanted, apparently? I mean, according to one of the stories in the book, one of the girls that lived at the apartments at the Whites next door, she makes a point to say stuff about how Murphy would just walk into her apartment and then she'd have to take him home. And it just reminded me of that original rumor in the very beginning that at first they couldn't find the dog and then the dog showed up out of nowhere. And I can't find all that anywhere. I know we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago and a lot of you guys remembered hearing that crazy shit too, but I can't find where we heard it from. I'm still looking for it because it's interesting.
Just ready to take on life, stepping into the big world. And she was happy to do that.
We want the world, with your audience, to remember Kaylee Jade and remember each one of these victims and forget about this guy.
Okay. Olivia is thin, bro. And listen to her voice. She does not sound like the same human. I know it is. Okay. I don't know what she's doing to lose weight. She didn't look this thin a few weeks before the sentencing hearing. I saw an updated profile picture on Facebook. She looked thinner, but she still looked healthy. Now she doesn't look healthy. I mean, she's gorgeous, but she doesn't look healthy. And her voice is weird. Not weird. You'll see. It's weird. It's not the same.
There's a little bit of a existential crisis that exists. That's well, then what the hell am I even doing?
That does not sound like Olivia. I went back and listened to, and I'll pull some up later. I went back and listened to when she was big and pregnant on the couch talking to Brian Itten with her mom and dad. And her voice is so different. Oh my God, so different.
Right? It's not going to make a difference as far as sentencing goes. I feel like I can cry for 1,000 years and still never be able to truly articulate the impact that this loss has had on not just me, but my husband, my children. I could probably go on for the rest of my life and still have more to say. So I kind of had to switch gears because the purpose for me isn't so pointed, right? It's a little vague. And I started writing, 3 different types of speeches. One was almost like a funeral speech, an ode to Kaylee and Maddie. And then one was more so directed towards
on the other interview,
that raw heartbreak of, speaking to them throughout this whole process and, giving them in some semblance a goodbye of a close to this chapter. And then the third type of speech that I was writing was directed at the defendant himself. And I mean, that's what I eventually went with. So my speech isn't about the process, the court, the lawyers, the judge, it's not even really about Kaylee or Maddie, because Kaylee and Maddie know they've been with me every single step of the way, and I refuse to get up there and further re-victimize myself over and over and over for a defendant who does not give a damn. I no amount of tears, no amount of, tear jerkers, heart, nothing is ever going to make him feel anything at best. And at worst, he enjoys it. And I'm just not gonna do it.
Okay. We're not reviewing Kara's interview, but I've had a lot of people ask me if I'm going to, and I'm going to discuss why I'm not going to. And then we're going to move on to the next subject. But I wanted to play this. I'm trying to get to the point where she talks. Because her voice is just so different and it's odd.
No amount of,
Trying to like
tearjerkers
in the right thing.
Can you elaborate at all? I don't know.
A sister or a father's intuition into this. And I don't know how much of that is just because we have so little information from law enforcement and how much of it really is, a sister or a father's intuition.
Nothing is ever going to make him feel anything at best.
Her voice
and
is
at worst,
it's a weird voice.
He enjoys it.
It is. It's very strange. There's a change.
And I'm just not
I
gonna,
guess
I'm just not gonna do it.
I guess it comes with whatever the hell she's doing, I guess. Okay. Kara. There's a lot that I could say, but I'm not going to, because a lot of what we talked about honestly didn't have anything to do with the crime. We could talk about a lot of different stuff. She knows that I am not religious, but I would listen to her talk about God and all the other things, and whatever she said was about God. Okay, I never argued with her. I do know also that she has not been just going along with the theme. She's had a lot of questions. That's why whenever she did this interview, okay, I can't say that actually. The interview wasn't surprising. The content of the interview wasn't surprising. The interview itself was a shocker because Candace Owens has even reached out to Kara and Kara said no. But she chose like a godly channel, so that tracks, which is fine. I haven't talked to her since the plea deal situation because I was really just thrown aback by her response to it. And I'm not going to, it's not my place to physically argue with one of these people about this kind of thing. I can say whatever I want all day long, and I know damn well the Goncalveses watch me. They know who the frick I am. But when you go from asking so many questions and having problems with the court system and thinking that you're being lied to, but that you can't say anything because you don't know how people are going to react to you having questions, and then you just be like, okay, I don't really know what to say to that. So I just haven't said anything. Because I don't want to say anything that I might regret later because I know myself, but it's also not up to me. You know what I mean? But she knows she has to know by now, how I sort of feel about it, because she knows the conversations that we had. And for a long time, I didn't even mention the fact. I mean, I never mentioned anything that we talked about, honestly, until Brett Payne. I know that because of her. But a lot of stuff that we talked about, I didn't even want people to know that we were speaking. But she's doing, so good. That's another reason why, I just didn't want to say anything else. Because right now she's on, a really good path. A really good path. I mean, look at her. She looks 1,000 times different than what she looked like. It sucks that it's happening now. And not whenever, Xana was still around. And I know that she feels that because we've had those conversations. But to see her go from having all these questions and then now I can't review the interview because she's not saying anything that I didn't already sort of expect her to say. And she also will probably understand regardless of that because of how religious the interview is, and she already knows how I am. But I also know, well, I can't say that I know, but I can say that I understand maybe the reason why she's relenting because of some stuff that I've been told by her that I'm not going to repeat. Just that it's like family dynamic type stuff that seems very oppositional to the way that it should be. And I'm not going to say anything more than that. But I can see that she's trying to mend things with the people that are left to mend them with. And I guess as far as I can go with this conversation is that her not being a sheep and just believing everything and asking questions, that was a problem for a lot of people. A lot of people that she holds very close and is trying to fix connections with. So I can't blame her for being like, okay, and just forgetting, I guess, everything that she had questions about. I just don't know if it's, I'm not trying to say that she's like faking it, because I believe that she really is like this different person. Like I follow her on Facebook. Like I said, we talked about stuff that's not crime related. She's actually pretty funny. But I hope, I'll say this, I hope that in the back of her mind, she's still maybe asking questions, and that maybe she's just going along with things now, because it's not like she just like grabbed onto every little thing. She would come to me with things that she would hear to ask my opinion on it. A lot of times I'd have to be like, oh no, girl, hold on a minute. And I'd have to like show her the facts and debunk some crazy stuff, because people would be so just disgusting and just no couth, no damn breaks, no conscience, no nothing. And just send her the most wildly outlandish shit. Knowing already, like it's already crazy enough. But you know, Brett Norton is just as guilty when it comes to Steve Goncalves. He's not innocent in what he's doing either. But it's one thing to like talk about the case and have a theory, but whenever you're like throwing it in their faces, and on top of that, people are constantly trying to say that like they're not actually dead. Like the families are like crazily affected by all that stuff. So yeah, that's basically it whenever it comes to Kara. Because a lot of people have been asking me why I hadn't done the review. As I talk about all the rest of them, I don't personally speak to all the rest of them. This is personal for me right here. And like I said, because I know that she's on such a good path, I just know myself, and I know that I'm going to start talking the way that I start talking about this damn case, because nothing makes any sense. And I don't want to mirror my anger about what's happening into a personal conversation when it's not warranted. So I just haven't said anything. But she's doing great. She's really doing good. And I really hope that she stays that way. And I know that, you know, she's made mistakes and stuff in the past, and that she's been sober before and then fell off again. It happens all the time. But it's been like 20 months now? 20 or so months now? And she's been doing really, really good. So if this is what she needs for now in order to stay that way, and maybe she feels like she's strong enough to come publicly out with her questions, and maybe that's what she needs to do. See, like whenever it comes to like Maddie's parents, we never heard anything from them. So it's like not really too shocking to me that like they're okay with everything. The Chapins are questionable. I don't give a damn. If you're going to like completely pretend like your son doesn't even exist anymore because you want to go, you know, buy twins instead of triplets, I have an issue with everything that led up to that situation. But Kara was asking stuff. It was conversations. It was more personal. So that's what it is. All right, on to the next thing. I don't think anything else is a video. Okay, the book. Where am I at in the book? Let's do this update real quick. Where am I at in this book? What chapter am I on? Oh my God. I haven't touched it in like 2 days. Okay, so I'm about to start chapter 72. And the next video that's going to come out when it comes to this review is going to be the actual timeline that starts here. Well, let me get this. Well, I can't take this off of here yet, but the like actual timeline page or whatever. I think I'd put on here that I wanted to give y'all like 3 of my most like. Okay, yeah, that's the last one I did. See, I put this thing together so I wouldn't forget stuff. Okay, 3 most ridiculous things so far. And this is going to be in the very beginning of the video that I'm going to drop probably tomorrow when it comes to the review of the timeline. Let me just go big for a second. Put a 1 in the chat if you remember that the reason why everyone was even looking at this case so hard in the very, very beginning was because Kaylee's family came out and said that Dylan had invited Kaylee to a formal and that Kaylee was hesitant to go back, but ended up going back anyway. Do y'all remember the formal story? Oh, you can send it to my email, but don't send me a link because I won't click a link. So you can give me like a screenshot and like, or a channel name and a channel title, and and then I can look at it. Oh, I know, right? Because it happened. That's what it was. That's what we were told, right? They didn't go. Did y'all know they didn't go? I wrote, I'm effing sorry. I'm effing sorry. They didn't go. They didn't go. Let me read to you why. The residents of 1122 King Road start pre-gaming at around noon for the Pi Phi formal. They have no intention of going to the official formal because the youngest, Dylan and Bethany, prematurely left and would not receive a warm welcome. They didn't go. No, this is the book, Nomad. They didn't go. They made such a big deal out of this invitation. They even said something in the memorial letter about how Dylan went to go see Kaylee and saw that she had that Range Rover and was like, damn, she actually made it. Meaning that you would have had to have gone to her parents' house like that Thursday. Either the Thursday or like early Friday before she left to go down to Moscow. You would have had to have gone to her parents' house to see her with the Range Rover to say, when I went to go see Kaylee. Because you don't go to go see someone that's in your own house. All of this shit. And they didn't even go to the formal. And this information is because they're getting it from Emily and Josie because they were the ones at the party with them on the 11th. The party that was at 1122 King Road, everyone said, oh, there was a party at King Road the night before. That was the party that they had instead of going to the formal. We all knew about the party the night before. The original lie. No, they were Greek life. Bethany, holy shit. Bethany and Dylan were Greek life. But they had found a way in like the years that they technically were not supposed to even be allowed to live off of campus. They found a way to be able to live in King Road. But the party that they had on Friday night was the party that they had instead of going to the damn formal. And I didn't know that. I thought they went to the damn thing. They made such a big deal out of the whole +1 situation. Like, I was just floored by that. Absolutely floored by that. I think the next ridiculous thing, well, I saved one for after this. It's just by itself, honestly. The next ridiculous thing is the Buddy the dog thing. Because it's put in here like someone is saying for sure that it's got to be, you know, the person that did this to Buddy. And then that's like it. He doesn't like say that he went and got the report and the police said that it was redacted because of all these laws that obtain, you know, have something to do with a juvenile. None of that. They just leave that in here. I just leave it in here. Now, I wanted to talk about Emily's dream again, even though I'm sure y'all are tired of hearing about it, because I've put a example in the community tab about why it was important, because of people like this idiot right here. This person put this on Twitter. Oh my God, he met Maddie at the Mad Greek, now confirmed, over a vegan pizza. That is the link. She has more subscribers than I do. And she is putting this stuff on here and getting people to think that this is true and this is the link. She's not saying where it came from, who said it, where she got the information, none of the things. She just puts it out. And people in the comments are believing her. The majority of the comments are freaking out saying, oh my God, I knew it. I don't like humans, bro. I don't like select humans. I like y'all just fine. I don't like select humans. But yeah, I guess that's like the most ridiculous things to come out of this so far. Besides everything about Hunter. By the time I'm done with this whole book, we're going to have to do a video on just like Hunter's timeline. Because it's very strange. It's just very, very strange. Okay. This is why JLR finally blocked me. Do y'all remember? Put a 1 in the chat. Do y'all remember Dana Smithers, the lady who was killed in Pennsylvania, that they had to do a grand jury for after they arrested Bryan to see if he had a connection? And it was already proven no connection. The law enforcement agency that's in charge of her murder investigation put out an entire statement stating that after both of his parents went in front of the grand jury, there is no connection between her and Bryan Kohberger. This freaking fool today on Twitter, after everything else, puts this on there. And it's not just that he put this on here, okay? Let me read it. Did creepy Bryan Kohberger kill Dana Smithers? So you're instantly starting it with a question that you know damn well for over 2 years now we've had an answer for. Just to stir up shit. Just to stir up shit. And people in the comments, this is the reason why I get so angry with stupid people. People in the comments were saying stuff like, yeah, I remember them saying that there was no connection or that he wasn't involved, but now that he's got this guilty plea, then maybe they need to just reopen it. What? Can we have a little bit of common sense? Like, where did it go? Where in the freaking frack did it actually go? But then I noticed after I went back that he blocked me finally. So I guess he had enough of me calling him an effing idiot 20,000 times a day. Finally. I wish blocking meant that I actually couldn't see anything. Okay, that's good and over with. I wish it meant that I actually couldn't see anything because I can still see your profile. It's so stupid. All it means is that I can't talk shit to you. It's completely pointless. Like, I can still talk shit about you. I just can't tag you. It's so dumb. I think that's pretty much it, though. There's no documents just yet. In case you guys hadn't noticed, there's going to be a new website that Moscow PD is going to put up where they're going to be able to put some of the documents that they can release unredacted first, I guess, which probably isn't hardly anything. And then I guess they're going to start putting stuff on that website. When it comes to what they have, not when it comes to like court stuff. That's going to be completely different. There was this. Press the right button. Press the right button. Why is it not doing that? There it goes. There's an extension to the no contact orders that's in here, but I guess that was pretty much like assumed. But I guess that they think that like he's going to try to contact them or something, maybe. I don't know why. I don't know what the dates were on the original ones. But this just landed in here today, the 18th. But it's not on the site to like actually, we're not going to be able to see those. We can never see those. We used to be able to see their initials, like whenever the case summary first came out and all of those started coming out, we could see like the initials for the person that they were for. But they stopped doing all of that. Yeah, see that part. And JLR, this is another thing that pisses me off about JLR, is that he was one of the first ones to come out and start saying that Kaylee and Dylan were selling themselves, if you know what I mean, had certain web pages and were selling other things too. One of the first ones to come out and just be a complete nasty psychopath with no proof. And that's the one that Steve invites into his home is the one who said all those nasty ass things about his own child. And then people still question why I have issues with him. Because his character sucks. I'm a bitch, but he's a freaking shit human. I don't care. Damn. Just, ugh. How? How would you even allow someone in your house that has said all of those nasty, disgusting things about your child to thousands of people on several different platforms? But he's the one that you take selfies with your arm around his neck. Mm-mm. Nope. Nope. Okay. I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. It's 10:30. Thank you for spending your Friday nights with me for us to be able to go through all this insanity. I know that there's not like a lot that they're saying in the interviews, but it's just really interesting to see the way that things have changed. And it was actually really interesting to see the way that things were different in that first interview. Like they all look so different. So much time has gone by, but it doesn't even feel like it's been that long. It's insane. Hey, Miller time. Good night, everybody. Good night, Jules. Be safe. You guys, too. If y'all decide to go out tonight still, because it's still Friday, y'all be safe. Take your weapons. Don't trust strangers. Cover your drinks. Don't do nothing crazy. Thank you so much for the super stickers and the super chats. Let me go by one more time. Thank you very much, Sadie and Kimberly and Jules and Danny and Jules again and Sadie and Julie and Jules again and RV. And I've got something to say, and Jules and Danny and LL Jaggers and Whit James and Whit James and Whit, and then 15 months. Holy crap. Oh, 5 months. That's still good. And I think you were actually a member before that, but something happened. You've been here for a minute. But thank you so much for y'all being here. I'm going to go ahead and end this thingy out now. I don't know if I'm going to go live tomorrow. I don't normally go live on the weekend. I probably should start doing a weekend live, though. Maybe we'll start doing lives on Sundays. I'll put a community post out and see how y'all feel about Sundays. But I'm going to go ahead and roll this out. Y'all go be safe. It's late, but it's Friday, so the boys are all awake. We're probably just going to go watch TV, find a movie or something like that. Let me go ahead and roll this in part. Please do not forget to leave a like on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. All right, you guys. See y'all.